Good evening. How's it going? So, another crazy day. Awesome day. Lots of good stuff happened. I had a couple of really good connections today with several people. Probably half a dozen different connections that were all really intense. Some of them were highly emotional in a good way. And something tells me that we're going to get a little bit of that here tonight too. So just a, fair warning. We have some stuff going on here tonight where we're going to be addressing some truth. And we're going to be talking to some pain, and we're going to be telling it to leave. And so, whenever you get into that kind of work, all kinds of stuff boils up. So it's going to be fun, because ultimately what we're doing here is serious, but the end game is joy, is love, connection, truth. So there's no bad that can come from that. The process might be scary, but you're going to be okay. And so, Bree, first of all, you're up. And we're not going to start right away. There's just a couple quick things I want to read. Some just very fast stuff, I promise. And then we'll get started with your reading. But think about how you want to pose the question. And then when we come to the point, I'm going to ask you to type it in, and we'll set the intention, right? The intention that you set today was beautiful. And if you want to use that same one that you sent in the text, then we should do that. Or if you want to restate it, having some time to think about it, then you can do that as well. So just, think about that a little bit, decide how you want to approach that, and then when the time comes, we'll do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to think pretty heavily on you and the energy that we're going to be dealing with here. And so when it comes time and you put the actual intent down, I will choose the deck then. Okay, and then we'll go from there. So, all right. Now, as far as the things we're going to be talking about today, there's a couple of things that I wanted to kind of reintroduce here and there as we go through these streams. A lot of these bodies of knowledge that I talk about, that all speak to that same truth and point to that same sign that points to another sign that points to that truth. These are important. And any time that we bump into a really good, solid example, I think it's incumbent upon us to share it so that we can all benefit from that learning. It's important that we understand, too, that, the idea of resonance is very real here. The idea here is that when the truth speaks to you in a language that is native to your soul, it rings. It rings in your mind, your body, your soul, your heart. And that's important. And we're going to talk about that a little bit here in a moment. Because you have to be comfortable with what you're connecting with. You have to have a connection that is real and undeniable. Right? If there's any kind of doubt, you have to examine that. And you have to examine, is that doubt coming from the death throes of the ego that's trying to fool you into letting it stick around? Or is it actually a falsehood that needs to be addressed? Kitten, how you doing? Wow, thanks for coming. I have some more stuff I'm going to be showing tonight. It's your fault. And so, we have to really consider where that's coming from, because at the end of the day, anything that gets in the way of that process needs to be stopped. The opportunity in front of us is so big and so simple that we owe it to ourselves to go through this work when we're ready. So there's just a couple of quick things I wanted to kind of touch on as we begin tonight. And one of them, I originally began, or I touched on Baha'I, which is another example of this beautiful truth being told in a different accent. And so I'm just going to read a short little passage. And I want you to listen with your heart and tell me if you hear the story here. Right? Because that's what we're looking for. And, it's kind of a trick question, because the story is everywhere. And so it's not hard to see. But in some cases, it's so in your face that, but that said, so this is Kitab Ikan, pardon me if I mispronounce that. The Book of Certitude. It's one of the holier books, probably the holy book of Baha'I. And I'm going to read the first paragraph. No man, they always start with that, don't they? No person shall attain the shores of the ocean of true understanding, except they be detached from all that is in heaven and on earth. Sanctify your souls, O ye peoples of the world, that haply ye may attain the station which God hath destined for you, and enter thus the tabernacle which, according to the dispensations of providence, hath been raised in the firmament of the Bayan. The Bayan is another word for the beyond, the great beyond. And now, I could keep going, and it's just as relevant, but I just want to kind of comment a little bit on what we just read. No man shall attain the shores of the ocean of true understanding, except he be detached from all that is in heaven and on earth. This is samadhi. This is nirvana. This is presence, to Eckhart Tolle's audience. This is stillness, oneness. And just to clarify, detached from all that is in heaven and on earth. Right. Sanctify your soul, peoples of the world, that happily ye may attain that station which God hath destined for you. The station which God has destined for you. Enter thus the tabernacle, the inner sanctum. Right. According to the dispensations of providence, hath been raised in the firmament of the beyond. So, come on. Enter the house that you built, right? This higher self, this higher self. And then I continued to read, right? I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but obviously I continued to read, and it's really something. And this is available for free on Sacred Texts. I speak about that website at Luana. I'm glad you're here. I talk about that website a lot. Pretty much every holy text ever written by human beings is on that site for free, and just what a resource. I've been reading that for a long time. Now, pay attention whenever you see a number in a holy text, right? Because that's like, look here. And very typically, there's something else to be heard in there, right? Whenever we see the word 12, we're typically speaking about the zodiacal. Whenever we see numbers related to 72, 144, 666, all these things are related to the holy name, And so it's very important that when we see numbers, we kind of perk up a little bit and go, And so there's this idea of Noah and the prophet, and he talks about some numbers. And I there's one number that whenever I see this, I immediately perk up, and that number is 72, because that number is relevant significantly to the name of God in the Kabbalah. 72 and 26 are the two very big numbers. The Yud He Vav He equals 26, and 72 is a very specific permutation of that. That is the expanded name, the holy name, the Shem HaMephoresh, the unspeakable. Right? It's actually, this is it visualized. If you want to see it, this is it. Drawn in a circle starting from the center. But that said, and it's also visible, depending upon the version that you happen to have. It's visible in the Bible in Exodus, chapter 14, verses 19, 20, and 21. And that's where it's actually derived from. But that said, so these two numbers are very significant with respect to the Kabbalah and with respect to the name. And why that matters here is because it is where the elements are derived. It's where the alphabet that is the basis for the major arcana, which is the building blocks of the higher world of the tarot. And is the basis for creation with respect to the story of the three elements, them manifesting as the 7 planets, and in that manifestation giving birth to the necessity for space, and that being separated into the 12 signs. And so it's a very important process whenever you see this number in text, especially when it's not Hebrew. And so that said, let me locate this piece of text here and we'll talk about where this number 72 appears on in the Baha'I. I'm having a little trouble locating it really quickly, pardon me. My eyes are not what they used to be. Might have been a better idea to bring it up in the web browser so I can Control F and search for 72. But I'm asking my computer to do a lot, and it really bogs it down bad. But I suppose I'm just going to default to that because, yeah. So Baha'I, the name of the book, Book of Certitude. And I'll actually let me put a link in the chat now for anybody who's interested in actually continuing their reading of this on their own. I recommend it. It's a great book. Okay. Great. Okay. So now I can actually Control F and look for the 72. And it was 12. Give me a moment, I'm sorry. Getting a bit lost. I'm having trouble finding the section. There was a bit of confusion because there's multiple versions of it, although they're all accurate. I think I may be looking at the wrong version, which means I'm having trouble finding the correct section, and I apologize. This is live, people. Live. Perhaps I'll save it for tomorrow because I don't want to waste too much time looking for it. But that said, if we look at the section that I read originally here, you know, it's that same story told over and over again with respect to, and it's a beautiful poetic representation, right? Attaining the shores of true understanding, except to detach from heaven and earth. Enter the tabernacle. You know, the language is raising into the firmament of the beyond. The idea is that there is this veil that needs to be crossed. And, you know, that's the funny part, because if you continue your study in these systems, regardless really of the source, they all come to the same truth, which is contradictory of that, which is that there is no veil and that you're kind of already there. That's sort of the ultimate lesson of all of these when you get to the secret of that. And very often, when the truth presents itself, it does so in a holographic fashion. And what I mean by that is that you can take the entire Bible and you can break it down into sections, and each section holds the entire truth. And that can also be said for the first sentence, typically, or the first couple of sentences of a holy work that reflects the truth. And so let's go through that process. I'm just going to read the first sentence, which, if what I just said is true, should contain the whole of the knowledge of this book. Man, I speak lofty a lot, don't I? No man shall attain the shores of the oceans of true understanding, except he be attached from all that is in heaven and on earth. Full stop. The only way to know the truth is to forget heaven and earth, because neither of them exist. We never left the middle. So I would say that this book passes the test. The entirety of what can be known is in the first sentence. Yeah, I ran out of teacups. I was feeling a tea night tonight. I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling a tea night. And so I go looking, I couldn't find any teacups. And so I said, all right, I guess I'll use that one. Wow. Let's just say I'm going to be caffeinated before the night's over. But it's natural caffeine, right? Let's catch up on the chat here. Really, Brianna, which coin? You have to let me know which one. Oh yeah, I might be able to help you with that, actually. I'm pretty good at symbols. And if I can't, we'll find it together. Like, it's, I know where to look. I know people who know symbols. It is pretty obnoxious, right? And especially when it's full of coffee, which is a little dangerous because, you know, it's one of these things where after you've used it a couple of times, you know that the coffee's going to kind of get cold, and so it kind of puts it into you to drink the coffee faster. And so you go through the cup, and then now the cup's gone, and so the addiction kicks in, and there's a compulsion to drink when you don't actually need it. But it's like, oh, I guess I need another cup, because you're used to drinking 2 cups, but that's 3 in 1, so now you're drinking 6. Bad things. The math is not in your favor. That's where temperance comes in, right? We have to exercise temperance. And, you know, it takes a big cup to hold the soul of the redeemed, right? You're not going to fit that soul in a little cup. So that was just one example. Now, something came up yesterday. We were kind of just shooting it, and we were talking about 90s music. And somebody brought up Maisie Starr. And there's a song Maisie Starr puts out which tells this story absolutely word for word. You know, it was... The evening was really kind of cool last night, and it went into a lot of interesting places. I invoked some parts of me that I haven't in a long time, and I showed them to the world live, and it was kind of neat. It felt good, actually. It kind of felt really good. But and so I tucked it on the back of my head, and I readdressed it with myself today. This song, it's called "Fading Into You," and everybody knows it because it's one of their bigger hits. And so even if you don't like Maisie Starr, you couldn't care less about the band, you know this song and you like it. And if you don't know it, you're going to listen to it at some point and you're going to love it. But now, the lyrics are everything. And so I'm going to pop them up and read them. I don't want to stir the pot too much on copyright stuff. You know, a lot of the music I've been playing is... The music itself is public domain. The performance isn't, but it turns out in the cases that I've used, when I did Camille Saint-Saëns and when I did, what was the other one that I did? Was it Gnossian? I can't recall. I got a little ding, but it wasn't a strike. And YouTube said, don't worry, they allow you to use it, so we're good. But that won't be the case with a BMG type thing, right? But so I'm just going to read the lyrics. The same reason when I did the tarot thing related to Sting, I didn't play the song, I just read the lyrics. And so let's just, I'm going to pull them up. And pardon the skipping or if there's any stuff going on right now, because again, I'm pulling up a web browser to look up lyrics. Oh, you know what? I think I saved them. Let me, pardon me. I'm going through some crazy stuff. I haven't been feeling well and I'm a little bit confused. Okay. I did. Good, Michael. I did myself a favor. Okay. So, for those of you that don't know the song, it is this totally groovy, mellow, dark, true soul talk of a song. I don't know, do yourself a favor and listen to it with headphones. It's very ethereal. There's a lot of post-production that was done to bring you to a very specific place atmospherically, and you don't get that without headphones, and so just do that. And if you're going to do it on YouTube, make sure you get a good version that's like high quality, because you don't want to miss out on some of her nuance in her voice. She's pretty good. Let's just put it that way. She knows how to feel in her voice, right? She speaks feeling. So here's the lyrics. Now, I'm not reading the whole song because, the chorus is one phrase repeated over and over. So I'm just going to read it the one time that it's relevant, and then the second time after the verse, after the bridge. So here's the verse, the chorus, the verse, the bridge. And it's all truth. I want to hold the hand inside you. I want to take the breath that's true. I look to you and I see nothing. I look to you to see the truth. You live your life, you go in shadows, you come apart and you'll go black. Some kind of night into your darkness colors your eyes with what's not there. Fade into you, strange you never knew. Fade into you, I think it's strange that you never knew. A stranger's light comes on slowly, a stranger's heart without a home. You put your hands into your head and then smiles cover your heart. Come on. Fade into you, strange you never knew. Fade into you, I think it's strange you never knew. So, word for word. It's that's amazing. And now I wonder, did they know, or was it channeled, right? You have to wonder, because there's a piece of me that has always believed, I'm a songwriter also, just as a hobby. I want to be clear on that. I play my own music. That's all I can really play. But when you're in that process, and it's real, you don't write music. You dictate it. You discover it. It's already there, and you just kind of pull it out. You hear it and write it down, kind of thing. Similar to Michelangelo. I made this analogy today with somebody, and it's very relevant. Michelangelo's David is one of the most magnificent creations I've ever seen. If you really study even just the hand and look at the veins of the hand of David, it's... And now here's the point of that. That's not made out of clay. He didn't take a lump of clay and shape it into David. He took a big chunk of stone, and David lived inside of that stone. And his job was simply to see that and remove what didn't belong. Right? And there's something very special and profound in that. And that's kind of what we do anyway when we seek truth, because that's literally the work. We take in our message, our world, the vocabulary of truth and lies. It's in the light. And then we have to kind of whittle away what doesn't belong, and what we're left with is David. What we're left with is this beautiful representation of a sculpture of truth in the shape of your soul. And when you know that shape, you know yourself, because it's a holographic representation of who you are. And now that shape isn't solid. You can't see it. You can feel it. And you know that different feelings have different shapes or different colors, right? You know that red feels different than green. And so we have to learn your color. We have to learn your song. And now that goes to something that I want to be clear. This is a comment that I made to somebody today, that we were having a conversation, and she had shared something that I found an instant connection with, because I've said the words over and over again in my life. And the basic statement is, believe those who are seeking and doubt those who have found it. Right? And that's very important. And I've used those words hundreds of times over the decades in my teachings. And this is the comment that I wrote to this person. And so she'll know, when I start reading it, that this is what I'm referring to. And this is for everybody else to hear with respect to what we just read. Again, the statement was, believe those who are seeking and doubt those who have found it. I've used that statement in my teachings for almost 20 years. It's so important. Realize that, though, that implies us as well. Doubt when you think you found the truth. It has to ring the same tone of truth to the heart, mind, body, and soul at the same time. If it doesn't, there's an opportunity to correct that by adding the proper note and making the harmony of the current chord. So taking that disharmony and turning it into beauty by now knowing what it sounds like, you know what to add. The disharmony can be transformed. We just need to know what is being sung and add our voice to the choir. Sing the loudest, sing the truest, and the discord becomes the true song of our soul and can be heard by the entirety of existence. Like the first cry into a new world of knowing. Every note, every nuance, every rise and fall, and give in to every one with anticipation, not for the resolve, not for the note that's coming, but for your participation in feeling it. You are already singing. It's just someone else's words and notes. Seek your voice. Sing your song. Know your truth. Feel the knowing. And what the idea, the crux of this whole thing is the same technique that I've talked about as far as transformation. Once we know what we're dealing with, and we're able to admit who we really are, which is who we are becoming every moment, we're in a constant state of becoming, then some opportunity pops up to latch onto that truth and to let the cup empty. And then that opportunity is there to fill it up with truth. And so all of these things are pointing to this one idea of the first step in all of this work is emptying your cup. And what does emptying your cup mean? It means being okay with the hard thing of letting go of things. Letting go of things that we really think we need and turns out we don't. And when we recognize we don't, we hold on to because we're scared. It's okay. We already came to the conclusion that it's time to let go. If it'll help, we can do it together, right? It's that same idea of being able to understand that what we need to be doing, where we need to be, is in the middle. It's not about ascension. It's not about descension. It's about remembering. It's about remembering. Yeah, something tells me it's going to be an emotional night. We're going to be moving on to a reading here in a couple of minutes, and then and some stuff might come up there. But and good emotions though, good stuff. I don't know if you cry easy, grab tissues. All right, I'm gonna read this, and then I'm gonna read it again later. It's another quick statement that I jotted down fast, like because it came to me and I just wrote it down fast. Oh, wow, that's interesting. I already just spoke that. Okay, so enlightenment is an unfolding, not a destination. You're in a constant state of becoming. Be open to it. Okay, so yeah, all right. Well, I guess that's from the Department of Redundancies department, but you get the idea. I guess it warranted repeating. Yeah, this is, another obnoxious part about a cup like this is that it weighs 100 pounds. Sorry. Did you find the coin? I feel like Ariel when Ursula stole her voice. Oh, wow. All you want to do is be heard. And the thing that you have to say is this so important. Please hear me. That's what we're all doing, Brianna. We are all crying out into the wilderness. Are you there? And we hear nothing. Here's the funny part too. The deeper the chasm, the louder the echo. So call into the abyss. And then you'll hear an answer. And it won't be an echo. It'll be you. And what's actually happening there when we call out into the wilderness and hear nothing? Because we're listening with the wrong ears. We're being answered back immediately. It's already talking to us before we speak. We're just not in a state of listening, so we don't hear it. And so when you call out into the darkness and you don't hear an answer, it's okay. There is an answer, and it just needs to be heard in a different way. That's all. So here, let's catch up on the. Oh really? Oh, you do sing? Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you? No, I won't. Wouldn't you think I'm a girl who has everything? All right, it's your turn. Look at this trove, treasures untold. I love that song. How many wonders can one cavern hold? That whole movie's great. That's one of those, you know, in the I'm in that generation, right? I'm in that generation. I remember seeing it, that kind of stuff in the theater. Although my favorite is Sword in the Stone, Archimedes, you know. But yeah. And, you know, recognize when you're singing. Here's the beauty then, Brianna. When you're singing, practice singing while listening. That's powerful magic. You know, any musicians in the room can benefit from this. It's the idea of getting to the level of knowledge with the song, kind of like doing your times tables. To the point that you've memorized it and you don't think about it any longer, so that while you're performing it, you get to listen instead of singing. So you're not speaking, you're listening. You're in a state of listening while extending your will. You feel like you should wait until later. Okay, well, tell you what, love, when you're feeling right, regardless of what I'm in the middle of, as soon as I'm done with whatever that thing is, we'll do your reading. How's that? Les poissons. Oh. Wait, how does it go? How I love les poissons. I don't remember the words. I just know I love the song. The whole scene, it's so beautifully choreographed. I mean, the that whole scene, the motion, the movement. I mean, just really, just the whole. Great movie though. Yeah, Little Mermaid's up there. I don't know. Does it beat Sword in the Stone, though? I don't know, maybe. Les Poissons is the Pisces. It is the Christ. And of course, what is the Christ fish but two people gathering together to draw a circle in two strokes to recognize each other as part of the cult of Christ. And then they would erase the sand. They would draw that fish symbol in the sand, and what point it was pointed east. Well, east, it's this way for you guys on the screen, but this is actually my east is this way. I face west. I come from the east when I'm on the camera. But so yeah, your daughter's name is Ariel. That's beautiful. That's a great name. I like that name. I never actually went and looked at the meaning. I don't know. You know, I have a very deep connection to that movie too, because I've done karaoke for a while. It's a hobby of mine. I enjoy it. There was a period of time where I kind of got over my fear and shame, and my birthday present to my new self was to go out and sober. Not a single sip, not a single puff. I got up and sang karaoke to a room full of people, and it was a blast. And it woke me up to the fact that I can do that. Long story short, I was out with some friends. One of them was a very, very close friend of mine, longtime friend. We're unfortunately estranged right now, which is sad because I love you. I love you, bro. I love you, man. So, long story short, we were out at karaoke, and he had a crush on this girl, and he wouldn't talk to her. I have no fear. I will speak to anyone, and I have no problem knowing what to say, whatever. I mean, how hard is it to talk to people? I don't know. I find it easy. And so I thought, okay, what I was going to do was wingman and kind of, at least break the ice, and then let them talk. But then I thought, no, I'm going to bust his balls. So I sang Kiss the Girl. And before I sang it, I called him out, right? So I get up on stage and I have the mic and, oh, God bless, I did, and I said, this is for a special person out there. I did it all like, this is for a special person out there, who just needs to gain the courage to talk to a pretty girl. And, you could see the red start coming to his face, like, oh, shit, Michael's fucking doing this. Because he knows that I have this way sometimes of just squashing a wound by just calling it out and it disappears. And so, and I don't do that all the time. I mean, only when I know that it won't cause suffering. And so I get up and I say this, and then I said, there she is, man. And I point at her. I said, there she is. And so now she starts, because it dawns on her like, holy crap, he's talking about me. It was my matchmaker moment. So then I sing the song. And I did it totally with the accent. I even did it with the accent, Well, how does it start? Is this strings, winds, words? Just like a really performed it. I did, and I loved him, so I put my heart into it. And then at the end of the song, I said, "Now go outside and kiss her." And I waited until they got up and went outside. And they're married, 4 kids. It's a long time ago. They've been married a while now. Married, 4 kids. I'm jealous of them. And so that movie has a lot of connections, and it's all positive. I had a very special person in my life when in high school that sang. What's it called? That sang. Oh my gosh. A Whole New World. No, not A Whole New World. I sang A Whole New World. I have to scroll now. I'm sorry. I'm exhausted and I've been very busy. I'm getting confused. Someone help me. What is the name of that song? The up where they walk, up where they run. Sing it. What is the name of the song? Part of That World. She sang Part of That World flawlessly, and it like an angel. I bet you she still can. If you're out there and you happen to catch this, I never forgot what you sounded like. It was really, 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 really something special. But yeah, Disney music is so much fun. Thank you. Yeah, Part of Your World. It's also, it's weird from my end here because the delay is like 30 seconds. And so it's like, hey, does anyone have an opinion about this thing? Crickets. Okay, nobody's listening. But yeah, no, Disney music. There's a couple of things to those who, are going to pop into karaoke at some point. There's a couple of things to avoid and a couple of things that are always a hit, right? And if you want to really just sort of light a room up and everybody smile, sing something from Disney that everybody knows, and then everyone in the room will be with you. And it's just cool. It's one of those kind of fun, lift the energy in the room type songs, Anything from Disney is like that. And if you have a duet, even better. Which is, that's a great strategy too, to talk to people like, hey, listen, I want to do this duet and I ain't got no one to sing with. You in? And, you can generate a lot of friendships that way, and you're finding like-minded. If somebody says yes to that, you have a friend, right? If a stranger walks up to you and says, hey, you want to come up and sing Don't Go Breaking My Heart? Like, well, I don't know, who's this guy asking me to sing Don't Go Breaking My Heart? Like, But yeah, karaoke has a way of connecting people if you let it. Right? You have to let it. But that said, though, finding your own song is important, and the metaphor here, and what I'm going for, is the idea that it's equally important to not only know who's speaking and who's listening, but it's also equally important to once you know that, do something about it. Like knowing isn't enough. So you know that, but then you still walk around as a zombie. Well, no, you have to take agency back and then use your own voice. And that voice comes from a place that has no shame or pain. It has no hang-ups. It has no husk that's preventing that inner light from shining and casting on the world. So, it's worth the work. And what happens is that it's the difficulty is kind of like it's almost like 1/r², right? It's a fall off fast. Like the work's hard at first and then it gets super easy, super quick. You just got to push through that little thing in the beginning of having no idea what are we even talking about here, and then it dawns on you, and you're there, and it's worth it, and it's not a destination. It's an unfolding. You're already there. Yeah, I'm going to leave that for later. Really? Which, wait, who are we speaking about? Oh, you're talking about the, Disney? Are you talking about part of your world? What would I give if I could live under these waters? I have to sing, I have to hear that song now. Oh, I remember one time I lost a bet and I had to sing, What a Girl Wants. And then I did, Poker Face. And then I did, No Doubt, I'm Just a Girl. And let's just say, whether I sucked or not, I left nothing. I left nothing. I did it. There's video somewhere on YouTube, true story, you're never going to find it, so don't even try, of me doing Gaga, I forget which song, with a big pink pimp hat. It's great. It's pretty great. There's a lot of crazy karaoke of me on Facebook and of me on YouTube that I should remove, but well, I haven't. I can't do it. It's too fun. It's really too fun. Yeah, I don't know. My favorite. My favorite Disney. You can't. That's a tough. I've always connected with Archimedes from Sword in the Stone as a character, but Little Mermaid has a special place in my heart because of a person who had a place in my heart. But I also have a very deep connection with Aladdin. Musically, because I sang a lot of it and performed a lot of it, and I have a connection to the lyrics in a very special way to a lot of the songs in that soundtrack. So that one's tough. But as far as movies go, as far as just directly the movie itself, to completely contradict everything I just said, that I could stare at any time, would be Fantasia. Not to be that person that just goes to but come on, it's soul candy. I mean, it hits you in the eyes, it hits you in the ears, it hits you in the heart. And so there's something there. And another thing too is that it was lightning in a bottle. The way that whole approach happened cannot be duplicated. There's been some interesting stuff done, but you can't. It's so raw. Like hand-drawn, hand-painted, celled animation. Created in a style of a period that we'll never get back to, and so it's so precious. Robin Hood. Some good stuff came from that. Hamster Dance came from that. Who remembers that? That came from a sample from that movie. But that's another one. Yeah, that's it. And that story is great, isn't it? The Green Man, the red fox that wears the green hat. Okay. So I'm going to read a quick this is the Bible devotional for today from the Upper Room, because again, we always like to hear the story in different languages, and this is the language of Christianity. Today's is Psalm 27, 1 through 3, and then it references John 1:5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And now, why that's powerful to everybody in the room right now, but especially Brianna. I'm going to read it again, and I'm reading it to you directly. And I'm not speaking to you, Brianna. I'm speaking directly into your heart, and so just hear me. This is divine mind into your heart, love, okay? The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Do you feel that? You can't see the light in the light. It gets drowned out. You can't see the truth. It's covered by 99.99 with a line percent lies. You know how hard it is? It's like finding a needle in a haystack the size of the galaxy. And being given a time limit. It's not possible. But in the darkness, we have no choice. We're forced to use something other than our eyes. We're forced to use something other than the forms that we have latched onto, that we anchor to, that we allow our ego to anchor to. That gives our ego the power to block the truth and speak its voice instead. And in the darkness, it gets scared. It goes away. It doesn't know what it's seeing, and so it can't lie to you about what you're seeing. And then, truth. You begin to come to yourself. And each little successive step closer to yourself, the light shines that much brighter. And then suddenly, the lights are on. And you'll recognize that the dark did not overcome you, as scared as you were, as painful as you thought it was going to be. I made it. Yep. I knew you would. Monkey. Justin. Yeah, I remembered. It's a big deal, the darkness. Don't be afraid. Really. It's the only way. How do you transform? You gotta let the tower happen. Close your eyes and dive into it. You know, like really, it's gonna be scary anyway. You might as well be the one to make the choice to take the leap. All right. Sorry, kitten. There's worse things that could be stuck in your head, right? If you're in the dark, you're almost home. If you're not in the dark, don't be afraid. You know what's funny about that too? I'm really bad with names. I mean, I'm not trying to single you out or make you feel special, but I guess you're special because I remembered your name. You are just. So, actually, that's the period of time we're in right now, too. We're in the period of time of justice, Libra. Justice is not just the fact that the universe has laws, it's the fact that if you know them, you can work around them. And there's also the fact that those laws also pertain to you, and so that justice pertains to you as well. It's not just the things that hold us back and limit us, it's the things that limit others and allow us to utilize that knowledge to facilitate the execution of our will. The laws are strong and weak nuclear gravity magnetism. The laws are solid, liquid, gas, plasma. The laws are heat determines what state you're in. The level of heat determines the state. What is air and water? The same thing in a different temperature. So, but, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it is the answer, because it is the reason that that manifest reality exists. It's why this all happened to begin with. Mind and heart, mind and heart, mind and heart. Zoom in on that. Divine mind into heart. Powerful. So, just in time. You know what's cool? He's never heard that. That's the first time he's ever heard that, so. Just in time. We got to come up with another one. This just in. Libra Sun. Do you know his rising? So Bree, I can either. I was going to talk about the a little bit of a continuation of yesterday by showing a couple of pieces that tell the same story in a different lens, and kind of discuss that concept a little bit. Would you prefer that we do your reading first, or would you prefer that we do the art first? I don't know how long it'll take. I mean, it's only a couple of pieces, but I tend to be long-winded. And, oh, do you really? Cool. Mm-hmm. I knew Justin once. Well, I guess I still know him. I mean, we don't talk too much, but he's a good guy. But so, in the meantime, there's a few subjects that I wanted to bring up tonight too that, kind of outside of the normal repertoire, that came to my attention today. About basically setting an intention and what that really is all about. Setting intention is an important part of what we are already doing, but again, it depends upon who's speaking, because typically it's not us, and so that the intention being set isn't ours, and what that really means, and how we best go about that, like truthfully how we best go about that. Isn't that powerful? The work that he did for you, That's a big deal. Yeah. I have to say I'm a little bit sorry that you chose to do the reading live. Just because there's some things that that might come up that it might be better to do alone, But yeah. Now, I wanted to do a tarot reading, an I Ching reading, and an oracle reading, and so we can treat yours as the tarot reading if you want for the evening. But I still think that we should get together. Okay. I think we should still get together private and do the reading private. And I think you know why, right? But if you want, I'll throw cards for you tonight. I'm happy to do it, right? And so I'll move on to the art thing, and we can circle back and I'll talk to you about it later. And if you want, we can do. Even if you want, why don't we use you for the oracle reading or for the I Ching reading, and then we'll save your tarot reading for private, say tomorrow or another time, and then we'll do. I'll do a tarot reading for somebody else here, and I'll do a oracle or an I Ching for you. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the meantime, and I'll leave it up to you. I'll put it in your hands. So we talked about some things yesterday related to this idea that you can tell the same story many different ways, and in fact, that's a very popular way that I have used to teach. I found that very much like resonance, when you speak a language that rings to a person, it flows very naturally into them, and the information just becomes easily, readily available. And when you don't, no matter what you say and how you put it, it's not gonna sink in. It's not gonna be accepted. In some cases, it can be straight rejected. And so, telling the story visually is very important. A major part of our brain is devoted to the visual cortex and processing of visual data. It's primarily what our brain works on. A majority of the power draw is in visual, right? Go figure. Your screen kills your battery. And that's the truth. And now when we consider that, we should consider the power of the visual system with respect to symbolism. Okay, no problem. And so, whenever we see a piece of art, we have an opportunity to see if there's something there, to read the message. And we went over a couple pieces yesterday that all are within this same exact story, just told from a different perspective. And there's a couple of others that I had identified today that I thought might be relevant. And just wanted to review a few of these. And so this is the last piece that we saw. And to be clear where this all began, are these three figures, right? And that moved into this same thing, the three figures, but now one of them is the pyramid, the door, the woman. This other figure, this orange man, and then the sun. And then there's that shadow. And we see all these just represented in different ways. He's looking for the truth, and the doorway to that truth is through this woman. And there's some kind of quality that wants him to stay. You know, originally that hand seems menacing, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if it is. Right? We've seen this piece here where there's these three figures, and then these sort of angelic beings or something is going on here. There's this group of people. Right? We kind of talked about some of the things that they might mean. There's many more to this story, but I thought I would keep it concise, because the point here is to illustrate the technique, the idea. It's not an art exhibition. And so it's a matter of looking at how can we see the story told in many different ways. And here, obviously, we have the sun, the sky, and the lake, which is just beautiful. Divine mind, divine heart. and the world that it lives in being the unification of the will and the body, the space that it occupies. And just to be clear, you're looking at basically the sunrise of the first day of the rest of your life when you come to the conclusion. This is the first thing you see when you exit the inner sanctum with the truth. It's time to go. There's a piece that I may pop it up because I think it might be relevant. I call it, they come for the colors. You know, and it's my idea of why we're here. Here's this little fairy, a little fire fairy, that decided that her will is to just experience the world for a day. And then she snuck out. And she stayed out longer than she was supposed to. And finally, it's time to come home. Here we have the light, the shadow, and then this red figure in this room with green, walking on will. Same exact scene, different viewer. One of these eyes is your heart. One of these eyes is your mind. One of these eyes is your will. They're all telling the exact same story. And it's just a question of identifying who's talking and who's listening. If you're seeing, you're listening. Now, why did I bring this one up? You know, I go through an exercise with new notebooks as just a technique, right? And I show this on the channel here, where I took some ash and I just rubbed the ash all over the page and, you know, use that as a method of kind of developing a piece of art. Now, this one that you're looking at here is about, I forget, 7 years old, I guess. I don't remember the exact. This is about a week old, right? You see the eye in the head. I mean, it's just written out, and the likeness isn't so off. I mean, you know, obviously these are 7 years apart or whatever, and the intent was not to create the same image, and so it's going to be a bit different. But something else, you know. So, and the idea is that when considering who's who here, like if we're following the same storyline, then what we're looking at here is this one individual that has three eyes. And now very typically you'll see in the idea of in Egyptian, the awakened have crossed eyes. Because they're seeing the world with both hemispheres turned on. They're seeing the world in a unified way. You know, we use one hemisphere at a time, typically, depending upon the work that we're doing mentally. But that said, that does not have to be the case. That can be changed, right? And the way to go about that is, well, there's some ways to go about that, but one of the techniques that I've talked about is this idea of flipping the lens. And what you have to recognize is that you do have that ability. You have the power to recognize that you can identify with and embody the thing you put your attention on. And what she is showing us is that we have the power to put our attention in multiple directions at once. We can do that. And now, we clearly can't do that with our eyes. But we can do that with our eyes and heart. We can speak and listen at the same time. We're just speaking with our fingers when we play the piano, or with our voice when we're singing. But we're in a state of listening. All right. Angel, how's it going? Angel, you got to email me. Thank you for popping in. I'm glad you're here. So this is a figure that can be embodied. And one of the ways that I've done that, and embody her with the intent of, or I do, I embody her with the intent of utilizing her organs, right? I like that eye on top. That looks handy. I wish I had one of those. Right. Well, you can. There it is. No problem. It's on your time, love. And so when you're ready and able and so forth, then we'll connect and we'll set a time. And there's an interesting technique that can be done here. The colors I chose were very specific because they're flashing. And what will happen is when you stare at a spot, not a bad spot would be directly kind of above. Let me see. You should be able to see my mouse. Directly in this area. And what happens is that you will begin to burn the color of the green of her eyes into your eyes and the red of her face into your eyes. And then with the easiest way is to put up a gray screen, like turn off the layer if you're using software that is layered. And what happens is you will see the opposite. You'll see the invert color-wise, and you'll see that the red turns into cyan. You'll see that the green turns into magenta. Basically, it moves into these secondary colors, and it's a beautiful thing to witness. So what happens is you witness the transformation from this one person into a different person, and recognize at that point that you're one of those three. You are a part of that trinity now. Once that second viewing happens of the opposite of this image, there's an alchemical marriage of those three things put together. And there is then, therefore, you are both the observer and the thing being observed. But at the same time, due to the fact that there's this third thing there, it kind of in a resonance fashion activates that every two has a third, and you become the truth. These two become an annihilating opposite, and you, out of virtue of that math, become the truth. And so it's a great way to embody an intelligence, an identity, is to make sure that it has some type of, it does not have to be color, but some type of contrast, so that when you go to gray or look at a blank wall or close your eyes, closing your eyes is tough because if you close too sharp, you'll flash a bunch of nerves, and it will it's like shaking a Etch-a-Sketch a little bit. You don't want to do that. And so you want to not move as much as you can. You want to stare at the image, whether it's black and white, bright colors, whatever it happens to be, and know what you're going to do next. So that means if you're going to be looking at gray, have the cardboard ready to put up in your eyes. So you don't want there to be time looking around. You don't want to move your eyes or head if possible. Set your intention. Stare at the object. Recognize that I'm looking at myself, and actually, wow, I'm pretty. I have pretty green eyes, and that the lips are kind of full. That's a nice bottom lip. It's kind of luscious. It's sort of kissable. She has a cute nose too. There's something kind of cocky about her shoulder being up too. I don't know. And feel it, embody it. All right. Recognize what we're looking at here is me. That's me. The opposite colors come. You'll see the opposites. It'll begin to resolve a little bit sharper. Now, you want to stare at it for a long period of time. It can't be a short period, and you don't want it to be, this is not ideal, right? We have the tarot, our story, in red and purple. There's motion over here. There's all these other contrasts. You don't kind of want that. You would want to be in a dark room with the thing you're staring at, the focus of like a flashlight, so it's the only thing you can see, or otherwise against a background that is grayish or black, not white, some stuff's not bad for white. If you're doing black and white, that's not bad. But white tends to be a bit bright. Perfect is middle gray. You're going to see the truest color that way. Go through this process. It's really something. And just to be clear, every two has a third. And now for those who are new, I just want to review that quickly. There's a divine algorithm, which is that every two has a third, which is a way for you to analyze pretty much any phenomena by breaking it down and looking for its opposite. And by doing so, you can kind of see it from a different angle. So let's talk about what that means. Like black and white are opposites. We can all agree upon that. That's sort of an easy, intuitive thing to picture. However, they really aren't. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. And if we pretend that that's the case, that black and white are actually one thing, then what's the opposite of that? Well, the opposite of that is color. So now it turns out that it does have these two things have a separate complementary opposite. And that complementary opposite is the truth of what these two things are. They are the lack of color. Okay, so now let's turn color into a question now. So we have black and white and color. These two things are opposites. I think we can agree, right? A black and white and color are opposite things. But let's pretend that they're one thing. And so does it have another opposite? It kind of does. Shade, value, nuance. And so it does have a complementary opposite. And so now it took 2 steps for us to get to gray. Right? And so you can really look at any question, issue, problem, circumstance, and apply the algorithm to it. Every two has a third. Look for the complementary opposite, and you can find some truth in that. And now what we're doing with this image then is we're becoming the complementary opposite on purpose in order to embody the thing that we're complementing. Is that clear to everybody? We become the complementary opposite. So I look at this, I create the opposite in the gray space, and then I become the truth of those two things combined, and I embody her. And it's real. There you go. There's Invocation, Evocation 101. Hope you took notes. But the point of that is to recognize that you can do that with anything. Clouds, birds, emotions, thoughts, poems. Embody the road not taken. Something else. Embody fade into you. Embody each other as much as we can. As much as we can. And you know what happens when we do that? We know each other and we realize that we're all the same, that we actually are each other. This is you. You're me. Sweet tea. I like Hong Kong tea, but I didn't put any milk in my tea tonight. I'm drinking my tea on the dark side. Yeah, the color, right? The color. I think the color is really what struck me about it. There's also a quality, like that, just in the way that her shoulders, I kind of left it raw, that cutout vibe, on purpose to kind of give it this sense of there being like she's on fire. There's like a dynamic energy happening in this unification. This is what you look like when you exit the Inner Sanctum. I mean, you're looking up and out at the same time, and that's. I got stumped because there's no words to describe that. Right? Anyone in the room willing to admit to experimenting with psychedelics? Like, you know, how do you describe tripping to somebody who's never done it? You can try all you want, but then they do it and now they know. Right? Same idea. Same idea. How do you explain to somebody what it is to be in the Inner Sanctum? You can't. You point to it, then they walk in, and then now they know. And everybody I've walked into and or helped walk into that room, everyone I've helped to come to that truth, to have that thunderclap, has said to me, how did I not know this? They almost giggle about it, like, wow, the truth is so profound but simple. How did I not know it? And that's why you don't know it, because it's so simple. Don't overthink it. Don't think. Don't. Yeah, there are many, many languages that we speak on this channel, and if you guys have any other languages that you want me to bring to the experience here, Tarot, I Ching, Zen, Buddhism, Elemental, Numerology, Kabbalah, Solomonic magic, science, physics, Christianity, magic, channeling, astral travel. If there's anything else that you think needs to be part of this, but here's the point: it needs to be, able to be utilized to point to the one truth. That's the whole reason that we use these tools. Even when we're not using them for that reason, we are. We just don't realize it. Right? We're so stuck looking at it from our own perspective, thinking that we're separate. We're not separate, not even a little. You know, I think I'm going to try to find this one image here. Give me a moment and see if I can just quickly find this image. Some of these are not necessarily safe for work. There's a lot of honesty in my art, and so I don't show it so much for everybody. This one's actually not so inappropriate either. This might be good. And this isn't bad either. Okay. I'm surprised I didn't grab that one. This is the original image of that red figure. This is his first picture. Copy. Okay. Okay. This is the scene. This is what he's looking at. There's another image, actually. Maybe if I do it fast, nobody will see the naughty bits. There's one that I think is... here's the... Yeah, okay. They come for the colors. That's you. You got bored with the black and white. And you said, I'm coming for the colors. If I hurry, I might just make it in time for the sunrise. So, the language is, Another word for language is context. Another word for context is perspective. Another word for perspective is identity. Another word for identity is imaginary construct. And if it's imaginary and it's a construct, that means that we can reconstruct it mentally. Anytime we want. So, I'm going to step away for a minute. Heat up this gallon of ice cold tea. I should just throw ice cubes in it and just... No, I'm not doing that. But so, when I come back, we'll all stare at Brianna and ask her if she wants her reading. And if she says yes, guess what we're doing? We're finding some truth. And if she says no, then I'm doing it anyway. No, I'm kidding. I have plenty to talk about, so don't worry. But that said, though, I'll be back in a couple minutes, and we'll go from there. This was when he first came to me. He wasn't red. He was clear. It was like the opposite of a shadow, but it didn't cast light. It just wasn't dark. It was white, but not luminous. It was almost as if he was colorless. And he took on the red of the room. He took on the environment. He became the world he embodied. The world. And that's what led him to that moment. To that place that he had to, at least from his own perspective, escape. Right? And the fact is that wasn't the case. He was just there to witness the unfolding. He was just there to hear the story that he was telling himself. That we were sent here for the color. That's why we're here. Don't miss it. Don't think about it. Take it in. Know it in your heart first. You can think about it later. We spend our whole day in our stream of thought. Give it a break. Don't you want to go in there? I want to go in there so bad. This is my art. And I have no idea what's in that. There's somebody here that can help me to find out what's in that room. I want to know. We all know what's in that room. Who are we kidding? You know who's in that room? The same person that's in that mirror in my box. It's quiet though. It's one of those things. I guess I'll talk when he's ready. So, we can either read some cards, or we can do a quick little reading from book 4 where Crowley talks about the wand as a way to kind of get a little guidance on what the wand might mean in respect to the tarot. Now, this description of the wand is not with respect to the tarot. This description of the wand is with respect to it as a tool in the magical process, as one of the tools of the magus. Wow. So, that's just great. So, that said, you know, it's one of these things similar to what we've been talking about here, but pointed at a specific thing. Like, let's learn about what the wand means. One of the ways that I thought would be interesting to do that is to go through Crowley's tools, or how he describes their crafting and usage, and consider what that means with respect to how that's used as a symbol in the tarot. Why do we use a wand to symbolize the will? Like, why was that chosen? And so maybe we can gain some insight by looking at one of the masters and how he described with the intent of teaching what this tool means. And maybe it'll gain some, we'll gain some perspective on how that can be used when interpreting the wand with respect to the tarot. And so that's kind of the goal here. Right. So those are our options. We can talk about Crowley's wand, or we can talk about some tarot, or do a reading rather. So how are you feeling, Bree? You tell me. There's a diagram in here. This one's really great because it actually shows the scale with respect to the sword. Okay, the Thoth, great choice. Oh, did you put a feather? Well, I have to ask. I just want to ask. There's a very specific reason I'm asking why you chose that feather. Brianna speaks in emojis often, and it's typically clear what she's saying, but this time I'm not 100%. And that specific feather, yeah, I'm about to blow her mind. So yeah, but yeah, what was the reason that you chose that feather? I gotta know. I'm curious. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get the Thoth going. Mara vista. How's it going? I'm so happy you're here. Even if you don't stay, you showed your face. Your energy is in the room and it will stay when you leave. It's been stamped. Because here's the deal. I have a couple things that I decided to add to my space back here. You know, some people might have noticed that I have my Venusian mask. And then I have this thing here as well. And what this is an embroidered needlework piece that says the following: Michael, who is like God, the esteemed one. And then there's a prayer. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. Okay, and it's a beautiful piece. Oh, I'm sorry that you're hurting. That sucks. Yucky. You have to give yourself peace. And so I have this thing up here, and I decided to decorate it with a couple of turkey feathers as a symbol of the Fool in the alchemical process. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. And I just put this up a couple days ago. I go back on my streams, you'll see that when it appeared, it was just a couple days ago. Isn't that something? So the fact that you stuck that turkey feather in is just neat, because these are turkey feathers that they just appeared on my lawn. Some turkey. We get wild turkeys up here. We get a lot of deer, a lot of bear, a lot of turkeys. You know, if they get into a fight, there's going to be feathers left behind. And there was a bunch of feathers on the lawn, and these were they were pretty, so I grabbed them. I thought that it would be a nice decoration for my. Are we doing Gematria? Is it just me? Oh, now I got to know what you were going to say before the cat took over. Yod mem. It's not just you. People have been saying that. You know, I'm thinking that might be like a memory issue, because my computer is has been running hot since an update, and so I'm thinking like the Windows update kind of broke my OBS, and I have to figure out, maybe I need to readjust some of the stream settings. How often is it happening? Is it bad? Because that's really unfortunate. I mean, I couldn't care less about the screen, but if you're not hearing what I'm saying, then that's a problem. You know, that's what I'm doing here. You know, I could do this on a radio just as easily. If there were, you know, like a little place I could put some documents and stuff that people can look at while I'm talking. It's not even about that. You know, I mean, it has to be heard. Especially if you're in the middle of doing a reading. Yeah, there's some magic. There's some mojo in turkey feathers, right? I chose to display them as ears, like, as the bunny ears of the fool. One of these days I'll show everybody my jester hat, which is a very beautiful magical cap that is handmade wool in Nepal. Beautiful piece. Trinity all over the place. It's a green hat with some beautiful color. I might bring it in the stream tomorrow. Really is something. Special hat. It's been to some crazy stuff. It has seen a lot of very, very high and low magic. Cool stuff. But the magical will. All right. The magical will is the definition that Crowley used to describe the wand, what it represents. This is chapter 6, the wand. Careful, he's watching. Pure cheese. The magical will is in its essence twofold, for it presupposes a beginning and an end. To will to be a thing is to admit that you are not that thing. Hence, to will anything but the Supreme Being is to wander still further from it. Any will but that to give up the self to the beloved is black magic. Yet this surrender is so simple an act that to our complex minds it is the most difficult of all acts, and hence training is necessary. Further, a self-surrendered must not be less than the all-self. One must not become before the altar of the Most High with an impure or an imperfect offering. As it is written, to await thee is the end, not the beginning. It is therefore necessary to develop the will to its highest point, even though the last task is the total surrender of the will. And so, isn't that interesting? The work of the Magus is twofold. To strengthen the will to a degree that you can recite the alphabet backwards in gunfire and not be shaken, and then abandon it, drop it, walk away from it, completely surrender it to your higher self. But here's the thing. That surrender requires the strength that comes from building up the will. You can't let go of it until it's strong enough. And now here's the beauty. Here's the magic. Here's the power. You already have that strength. You were born with it. Just some things happened that made us forget that. That's all. And so really what we're here to do is to just do one thing. We're here to remember. That's why we're here. Why are we here? To remember. Okay, good. No, it might happen. And you know what? It might come up when I flip screens, because I'm flipping screens, which is requiring some processing. Especially when I jump to some of the images or anything that's animated or whatever the case. So it's, until I kind of beef up this computer here. It's an i7. It's an older processor, but it's getting it done. I mean, I have to say, it's getting it done. And I'm very happy, that it's allowed this to get me where I am, to get the channel where it is, and to, so I'll take it for now. And allow it to grow organically. As we bump into these truths over and over again, and it's important to kind of take stock of what it is that we're doing here. And to always remember that knowing is half of this. The other half is doing. So the doing requires knowing what to do. And so it comes down to some of the things that I've talked about here with respect to embodying. Another word for that would be channeling. Another word for that would be invoking. And, these are all important topics and concepts for once you have come to the truth or are close to it or on that edge, it gives you access to knowledge. It gives you access to wisdom. It gives you access to tools that can make the experience even faster. And so we just need to go through those exercises and start using those tools. And some of them I talked about. I use the word vocabulary because that's really what all these systems are. There's just a different way to talk to yourself. Tarot, very powerful. One of the best methods to get down to the core of our experience and what's holding us back from moving forward. Like, what are the things that we need to let go of individually? And a lot of that comes from understanding the why. Why do we hold on to those things? What is the thing that's keeping us from letting go? We all have a currency, and we all have a thing that we are afraid of losing. And the thing we're afraid of losing is not the topic of the conversation. It's the why that is. Because when the why disappears, the necessity for the thing does. And it's... To say it's easy to drop is an understatement because it's already going to be on the ground. Like the moment the truth comes to you, it's like everything that you've been holding on to drops automatically. You don't even have to try. Anything in your life that was born out of necessity disappears because it's not true anyway. The I Ching and the Tao, the opposite of the tarot. Here's your answer, take it or leave it, no interpretation. And it's always right. It's always right. It's really something. Now, the I Ching, due to the nature of its qualities, the I Ching is very basic and is designed to give us... where is my GIMP? Bring out the GIMP. GIMP is this piece of software. It gives us access to very big things because very big things cannot be spoken about using big words. Big words are good for describing small things. When you're talking about things like creation, manifestation, transformation, these are words that require a different concept to talk about and to get to. And give me a moment to open up the proper thing. Oh, it really seems I was less prepared than I thought. Okay, sorry about that. It's funny. I keep pretending that I have my act together, working on no sleep and kind of being in a weird mental state. Like my health has been a little weird lately. But so the gist of what we're looking at here is the idea that this is actually the unfolding of the tarot at the same time. This wheel that we see on the top left is the idea of the unfolding of the elements. These are the building blocks, the court cards. These here are the main four elements: fire, water, air, and earth in their raw form. Pure bestowal, pure reception, rejection, lament are right here in these four. And with those four words, you can describe the whole of human phenomena. And it unfolds very beautifully in the I Ching. And it gives us a little bit of guidance about the changing in the situation. Like, where is it moving to? Because The I Ching speaks about the truth that nothing is actually still and nothing is actually moving. And so if we're looking at from the perspective, the lower world, nothing is still. Everything is moving. Everything is vibration. And so how do we decode that? Well, the I Ching is a great way to do that. It's one of the best vocabularies for doing exactly that. And so between the tarot and the I Ching, you've got a handle on a very elegant, succinct way to define and to kind of unlock the vocabulary of your creation. Both in the larger 60,000 foot view of from the beginning till the end as one big picture, and the minutia of your day-to-day human experience of the identity that you choose to perpetuate. And so between those two things, it's a pretty solid narrative of that experience. Now, here's the beauty. That story, the I Ching and the tarot, includes the end. It doesn't just come up to this moment. It also includes the end. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, enlightened. And, you know, there's serious power there. This is the idea of speaking the language directly to the universe of what you want and need, with the knowledge of what that actually is. You don't know what you want. You don't know what you need, but the real you does. The higher self does. It's all you need. It's all you. It's all. It is. It. I. I have this little birdie. He comes to me every once in a while and he gives me advice. And I trust him implicitly. Well, that's an interesting term. The term levitation. Let's talk about that word for a second. Tangent. Levitation is the act of moving against the center of gravity. And the center of gravity is relative. Right? Because the reality is that from where you're sitting right now and everything around you, like if you look at the space that I'm sitting in right now, let me get rid of this chart here. And I put my hands down. These two objects are gravitationally influencing both of these hands. Right? And so theoretically, I am moving toward, and this is moving toward me, and they're pulling toward each other, right, at a very specific ratio. And the same thing is happening right here. This is occurring in both cases. What's the center of gravity with respect to my hand? The largest mass object, is it the bird or the watch? Right? And so it sort of depends upon what your perspective is and kind of where you are in that process, because there's gravity pulling on you from all circumstances. We just assume the biggest body in the room is the one that's got all the influence, and therefore that's the winner. So the earth, even though that this bird is pulling toward me, and even though you're pulling the earth toward you. But if that's the case, then the gravity center is the sun, which is 99% of the mass of the solar system. We don't even exist with respect to the mass of the solar system. We're not even a blip on the radar. And that includes, if you took every single particle outside of the sun itself and mashed it into one ball, the sun would still be 99% of the mass of the solar system. So, you know, like, we don't even exist gravitationally from the respect of the sun. And from the respect of this little bird, I'm huge. And from the respect of a dust particle, I'm too big to even be seen, right? So levitation is really a function of understanding the environment that you're in, and working within the laws of thermodynamics, which is that you can't simply raise a massive body against gravity without an equal force. That's the law. That's why we're able to go into space, because we know that, and then we are able to provide the proper thrust. Now, one thing that I've heard described is the ability of basically time dilating, meaning that you're jumping slowly. And now that's a very different idea. Now that, from the perspective of a person out here watching that happen, you wouldn't see it. I want to be clear about levitation. This is one of those things that's kind of misunderstood. If I'm watching a person levitate, I don't see the levitation. They're time dilated and they levitate from their perspective. I don't see it. What I will see is a yogi in a position do this. Okay? That's what I would see. From the respect of that yogi, he sat there for 5 hours in oneness and recited a prayer book beginning to end of 1,000 pages, word for word, 5 times. And all before breakfast. So levitation is really more of a temporal experience than a physical one. I hope that made sense. Because that was a left field tangent, but I think I got it out. Yeah, I did. And so, practicing levitation is really cool, but there's some skills that need to be developed prior to that. You got to be able to stop time. Well, yeah, there's some truth to that. We'll talk about that one night, because we more accurately, Bree, we together we power. The sun is powered by us. It's the idea that it's a symbiotic relationship, and the source of the energy that comes to us is returned to the sun, and that is an automatic process that, if you have the wherewithal to participate in, can be powerful. If not, then we're already doing it anyway. Our circadian rhythm is based on it, and our cells are energized by it. We are made of it, like our physical form is stardust. There's an intrinsic connection, and due to that connection, us being born from the sun's particles, there's a natural entanglement, and we're able to feel and to communicate back sunspots, which are a point of reception on the sun, and other phenomena, like the result of a sunspot. What is a sunspot? We talked about this yesterday, and don't worry, I'm not going to turn the conversation there yet. But a point of reception on the sun that is inhaled into ejects a solar flare. Okay, are we clear there? Solar flares come from sunspots. Sunspots are not masculine energy, they're feminine. The sunspot is the result of the work. All right, the solar flare that comes out is those particles become and coalesce into high energy forms that turn into solid objects. It becomes the energy that fuels probabilities, turning into possibilities, turning into happenings, turning into beings that turn into doings, that turn into havings, that then return. Awesome. Wow. Well, if your goal is to do it, and you're in the right place, it will be done. It will be done. It's not a question of if, it's a question of how. Right. And time dilation is it's interesting as a tool for meditation, because it really is something to be lost in a space for what seems to be close to an eternity. Like, I mean, there's no you've lost the time, so it could be a minute or 10 days and you wouldn't know the difference. And then look up and it's been 5 minutes, and you have your whole day ahead of you. And you traveled worlds, you spoke to beings, you did work, things happened, and no time passed. It's immortality. I mean, how can you be immortal and live in time? That breaks the law. But if we know the law, we can work around it. How do we work around it? We step out of time for a minute. Duh. Time equals entropy. Entropy equals decay. So you must escape entropy, or at least slow it down or stop it. And how do you do that? Move. The faster you go, the slower time is. So just be the light. And you're moving at the speed of light, which means you're not moving, which means there's no time. Embody a particle. Embody a neutrino. Embody the universe. And you know what? We can do this together. I can teach you how to do it. I promise I can. It's different for everybody, so I can't teach it into, like, let's just, talk about the technique here. There's a lot of group work that I've seen. I've even been to seminars that try to teach similar kind of things, but a different way. I mean, entirely different. I remember a Merkaba meditation, where the whole meditation was sitting in a lotus position, which I actually can talk about with respect to the nervous system and circulation. But anyway, their idea was basically to just charge a couple $100 to get a room full of people to imagine spinning in their heads. And that was literally it. Like, imagine you're spinning. And at what speed and all these things. Because they were talking about the different rotations of it. And they clearly didn't they misunderstood the Merkaba wisdom. The idea of the chariot. Can you do a reading for me? Francis forgot my birthday. And I took it too personal, but he's been sick in a clinic. My migraines. Any advice? I'll send you a cash. Oh, I can. Of course, I'll do that. No problem. Absolutely, of course. No problem. Francis forgot your birthday. That's no problem. So I just want to be clear on what you're asking here. Because it looks like, okay, so I just want to kind of be clear. I'm wrapping my head around the correct thing here. Your birthday passed, and Francis, who's important to you, did not reach out. And you took it personally, which you kind of should have. Oh, I see. And then thank you so much. Yes, you did. And thank you again, and really, and thank you for your trust. You also messaged that at Pi. That's awesome. 111 on Pi. Okay, that's a great question, and actually, that's a really good question, because it shows that you're caring about how you're going to be received on the other end. And it seems like you may have been a little but now you're recognizing that that wasn't the best thing, and so how to make this better. So let's do that. Let's look at the truth of that. I'm going to think about how I want to go about this. Like, what spread to use. I know what spread I'm going to be using for Brianna, but I'm not 100% sure what spread I'm going to be using for you. Mind, body, and soul might work. Do I have my... think about where I put that deck. Give me a moment. No, this is Thoth. Yeah, this is the one I'm going to be using for Bree. That's Visconti. Let me see. Did I put it in here? Just used that deck for a reading, and I'm having trouble. Yeah, migraines are not a joke. No problem. I'm dropping stuff. Alrighty. What time is it? 3:18. Okay, I did a been having a very, very bad headache. Oh, look at that, Excedrin. That's fine. Wait a minute. Yeah, right. I was just gonna say I'm having a really bad headache, and I took an 800 milligram ibuprofen, which I had prescribed for something different, and it's doing nothing. And I wonder if I'm actually just like feeling this, guys, because it sort of came out of nowhere, and I just figured let me knock it out, and it's still here. But okay. Yeah, and you know what? We know so little about what causes them. It seems to be electrical. And the pressure might just be a side effect. But who knows? My sister gets them. Amy, God bless you, Ames. I've had them in my life, but I don't get them with regularity. I probably get them every couple of years. I'll get one every couple of years, and knock wood, it's been quite some time. Because, man, they're bad. So this is the reading I'm going to do for you, Angel. It's called the Mind, Body, Soul, and it's really just a way to look at a situation. I just did this yesterday for a relationship spread for somebody, and so if you're interested in looking at it or showing it to people, and otherwise, that there's another example as well from yesterday. Right? Yeah. Well, did you want the Well, actually, I wasn't sure. Yeah, the Brianna, did you want a specific spread, or just a like leave it up to me? Because Angel, I'm going to wind up doing a Mind, Body, Soul. Okay, all right. Sure. Well, you're about to see it, okay, Bree? So tell you what, Brianna, watch the reading with Angel. You'll get a vibe for what the Mind, Body, Soul reading does, and then you can decide if that's what you want to do, and if not, then we'll decide what to do when we get to your reading, okay? So for what we'll do now is to do a Mind, Body, Soul reading for Angel, and then that will show you the process, and it can let you decide if it's something that you would want to do after the fact. Okay. And so I'm going to begin with Angel, and we're going to look at the circumstance. By the way, when was your birthday? And see what we can see. Okay. And if you know his as well, if you can put his birthday in as well. Migraines running the family. Oh, Bree, that's the worst. Yeah. And if it's genetic, really, I'm very fortunate that I didn't catch the bug my sister did, because she gets them frequently. They're common for her. The lights and everything. The lights, the shoulders, the head, the neck. Okay. Cool. Awesome. That's a great date. That's a great date. Okay, I'm confused. 12/22 and the 19th. Okay, May 6th. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you are, just to be clear, December 19th. And he's May 6th. Did I get that right? So again, just to clarify, I have you at December 19th and him at May 6th. If not, then you can correct that in the chat there, and then we'll begin. October 19th. Okay. Okay, I'm going to ask for a moment just to center. All right. And let me clear the space, and before I do that, get ready for the reading. So that we can jump right in when I get back. By the way, just wanted to remind you. Not that you forgot, but I wanted to remind you anyway. Not gonna make it in there. Yep. Wondering what color incense to use. Okay. So we'll begin in a moment, and what I'll be doing here is there's 2 decks on purpose, and what this is for is that this is the higher world version and the lower world version of each of you. And we're going to look at you with respect to the connection to this individual and the circumstance, and then we're going to look at him with respect to kind of where he's coming from here, and like what was the motivation to not reach out, or more importantly, how does he feel about not reaching out? Not reaching out is what happened. Why he didn't reach out is what we're trying to get to the core of here. And so, that's what we're trying to find out. Not any of the assumptions, but more specifically, how does he feel about the fact that it happened? Because if he has no care, then this is a pretty quick reading, right? But we'll see. I got them daily. Yep, sounds alright. That's what I've done. Yeah, when I get the lights and the bad pain, it's I'm in bed with a pillow on my head and no sound, and just pray for sleep. I'm actually about to eat another one of these ibuprofens. It's getting a little intense, and I just, Okay. They're huge, too. Man. Okay. You know what the beautiful thing about an 800 milligram is? You know you're going to be fine in 20 minutes. Although that wasn't the case this time, but this time I know it's going to work. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. And then we'll have some fun finding some truth. Okay, so just give me a moment to get my head straight. I'll see you in a minute. Alrighty. So, let's begin. What we're going to look at here is the approach to the situation with respect to you. And it's kind of like a diagram of what's going on, what you're trying to communicate, what's being heard, and then what your higher self is trying to communicate and what's being heard, right? And then there's some action stuff that's going to go on. So the first thing I'm going to use is the color deck. And the purpose of this deck is to take a look at the lower world that we live in, the world of angel, the identity, the personality, the body, the person that you are, in your yourself, and how that interacts with this individual. How he, what he hears. Okay. Very oftentimes we have a certain idea in our head of what it is that we want to say, what point we want to get across, and then we'll choose the words, and then we'll speak some totally different stuff that is nothing at all like we wanted to, and they'll hear something totally different, and then we're like, man, that's not what I meant to say. Or we say exactly what we wanted to, and they misinterpret it. Either way, communication didn't happen. And so the point here is that we're trying to facilitate communication. That's the goal, right? Because what winds up happening is that oftentimes, even when communication does take place, at least to the degree that we think it takes place, it's actually our lie talking. It's our higher self going, that's not who you are. And it's our lower self spewing all this nonsense. And then this person buys that, and that's who they fall in love with. That's who they connect with. And you're connecting with their lie. And so you have two people being their fake selves, falling in love with the other person's fake self. And so now your heart is involved in that. And your heart is like, hey, I have this thing I want to say. And so you say that thing. But that's not the language the other person fell in love with. They don't speak that language. And so your heart's like, but I said, and you didn't hear. Rejection. And he loves you. And you're being rejected. And that's really not what's happening. What's happening is that it's this misunderstanding. There's a lack of translation taking place. And so the way that we can facilitate the amelioration of that situation, how do we raise that up into a place where you both speak in the same language, is figure out who's speaking what. So let's do that. And who's speaking. To know his language, you must listen. And you must speak to his heart, not his mind. So these three cards here represent what you are trying to say, what you think you're trying to communicate, what you're saying in your mind. Those are turkey feathers. Those are turkey feathers, by the way. I wanted to point out the fact that those are turkey feathers. The Six of Swords is an idea of things aren't going so great, and so you're deciding that it's time to maybe take some action. The Six of Swords is the card of, Crowley calls it science. But more appropriately, what it is having to figure things out and make change in order to create your will be done. It's the idea of packing up the swords and going off to try to do something better. It implies movement, but not just movement for the sake of moving. It implies movement for the sake of there to be a change in mental state. Don't forget the swords are mental. The swords are communication, but they're also mind, thought, worldview. And, very typically a change of environment doesn't work because what we're actually looking for is a change in thinking. And changing our environment doesn't change our thinking. It just gives us a new set of facts to apply our old thinking to. That doesn't work, right? So this type of motion, if it's going to take place, needs to be willful toward the specific goal of changing your thinking. What does science do? It provides evidence. It provides learning. It provides guidance on what to do next based on prior observation. And so what this movement is you owning things that you know to be true and acting. So within the respect of the position, which is the position of what you're speaking, is that you're speaking this idea of, I may have to move, I may have to take steps in order to get what I need. That's what you're saying. Now let's look at basically what is being heard. Everything's fine. Everything's great. The sun is this card of I speak about it a lot on the channel here, that there's no truth in the light, because the light shows us everything, and 99% of everything is untrue. And so it's really hard to kind of see the truth in the light, and what the sun is the ultimate light. It shines on everything without regard. It just gives endlessly, and so it shows everything. But it's also the idea of status quo from that respect. It's kind of the idea of, this is normal. There's a joyousness related to the sun card that often comes up as an energy. But that joyousness is really the just looking at the light and ignoring everything else. Like, oh, there's nothing wrong here. Well, anyone who's ignored an earache knows that doesn't work. Right? There's some very beautiful esoteric meaning behind the sun card that is related to the roles of the Trinity and where the sun falls in that. If the Holy Trinity is the sun, moon, and earth, the moon and the earth are Eve and Lilith, the two divine feminine. The Gaia, Eve, the moon, Lilith, and then the sun, the object of Eve's desire and the focus of Adam's desire. And so the sun represents Adam in this circumstance, which is in this weird place of being nourished by Eve and wanting Lilith. But now Lilith, due to the relationship of the creation, when the two of them were created together, Adam and Lilith are twins. That caused a situation, I spoke about this on her episode, but a situation whereby she is unable to give birth. And so any connection with Lilith, due to that state that she was put in, is empty. There can be no creation. There can be no transformation. There can be no... however, that's not entirely true. There is a process by which that can be corrected. But that said, though, so the sun has a lot of interesting meanings. Some of them refer to everything's great. Some of them refer to everything's not great, but looks great, and we're going to ignore that things aren't great. Or it also means this, this unfolding of this idea, the concept of Adam being caught between love and lust, and being caught between the idea of what I know is good for me and what I think I want, and the true lesson, which is to walk that middle. And if we have the ability to have both. That doesn't mean two people. That means recognizing two sides of ourselves, and that Lilith is in us, and so is Eve. And we have to decide which one we give to that person and when. And that Lilith is in her, or him, and so is Eve. The nurturing side of him is there, and so is Lilith, and so is Adam. That energy, these are just words. Salt, sulfur, and mercury. And at the end of the day, who's he being? And so, it helps you to set up the conversation if you know where you're coming from and where he's coming from. If you're trying to be the nurturer, speak to his heart. If you're trying to be Lilith, speak to his wand. And now the other side is true as well. You can get a sense pretty quick when you use this lens. When you investigate how somebody treats you, the type of words they use, the type of actions that they take or don't take, the types of past, present, or future tense in the statements. There's all these little flags that'll give you some indication of where they're coming from. Are they speaking from their mind? Are they speaking from their heart? Are they speaking from their genitals? Like, where are they coming from? And that will give you some indication of what their motivation is. But now, what this third card here is in the middle. We have what it is that you're actually trying to say. We have what it is that what is being heard, what your higher self wants to say, kind of thing, which we'll get there when we do the higher self. But what's being heard. What this is what you should do in order to correct that. What do you need to do in order that you will be heard properly? That the thing that you're trying to communicate is the thing that's understood. Okay, and that's what this card is. It's going to give us the guidance on your what to do next. This is an action that you need to take. And this action will cause change. The Seven of Swords. We've moved into a different energy now, right? We've moved from this 6, which is this period of I'm going to kind of go off and try to do my thing, to now the Seven of Swords. The symbol, the image in the Rider-Waite, which is, it's kind of stuck in my brain, is of a person sneaking away, stealing some swords. Right? There's like a dishonesty, but it's in the self. Meaning that you're not being honest with yourself mentally. And what you need to do is to stop lying to yourself. It's kind of like justifying behavior that you know isn't necessarily good for you because it's comfortable. Sometimes we'd rather be miserable than alone. And even though we are alone, we're holding out for hope that maybe we won't be if we just are patient. Maybe they're just going through stuff. Maybe they're just busy. No. You deserve love. You deserve to be paid attention to. And of course things come up. We're going to look at that and what that is. And is it something that is a pattern and you shouldn't expect anything? Or is this incidental and it won't happen again? But either way, you have to come from a place of understanding what it is that you deserve. I'm going to pause and ask if you have any questions or want me to elaborate on anything we talked about. It's a beautiful deck, isn't it? This is the Six of Swords. Just gorgeous. Quick while he's not looking. All right. Beautiful deck. Great. I'm about to do the identical thing with this deck from the perspective of your higher self. So this is your perspective. We're going to do the same thing now, but from the perspective of your higher self. And then we're going to apply the algorithm to correct the entire situation. And it's beautiful when it comes together. What your higher self is saying and wish you would hear. The Two of Swords. The Six of Swords and the Two of Swords are virtually opposite cards, because what the Two of Swords is referring to here is the idea that you are always the combination of two minds at one time, and that's your higher and your lower self. You're the divine mind and the profane mind. There's many ways to speak it, but it's basically the idea that your higher self is always speaking. Your soul is always talking, and it gets drowned out by the world, and it gets blocked by the ego. And the ego becomes a translator, and it speaks on behalf. And it speaks whatever it feels like, not what your higher self speaks. And so we have to be sure that we are understanding who's talking when we're listening to ourselves. Because the idea is that the ego could not care less about your feelings, your success, your happiness, your joy. It cares about perpetuating its own agenda, which is not yours. It's bodily, it's Luciferian. The ego cares about nothing. It's useful when you integrate it and use it, but when you identify with it, you're done. Now, what the Two of Swords is referring to is the idea that we have the ability to hold two thoughts while not identifying with either. The image here is of an individual that's blindfolded, holding these two swords, and they're just kind of like in their state. I know it's hard on the camera with the gold, but and they're sitting there in their state, and they are not identifying with either. Okay, they're very fortunately able to think about this one, think about that one, and not hold either in their mind. But that can also run into the risk of not being able to commit and having trouble committing. And so what the higher self is trying to say to you is the idea here that it's more important that you drop the swords than add to them. 6 is too many. You only need the 2, which is really the 1. But ultimately the idea here is the difference between this compulsion to, or the thought of a willful movement, is the idea of, I have the decision here of who I'm listening to, and I'm going to decide to stop listening to everything and start deciding for myself. Your higher self is telling you to basically drop all the swords. No more mind with respect to this individual, because it's been justifying, and it's been allowing, and it's been kind of guiding you, but not fulfilling you. And now, none of this is positive or negative with respect to this person or otherwise. What this is referring to is the fact that it seems like you're having a little bit of a confusion internally about the communication going on, and that might cause some of the confusion here. Like, for instance, here's what I mean. If this person fell ill and they were really in a bad position, and they were on medication, or they were, in a bad spot because they were in the hospital, and they just couldn't reach out to you, and you can't accept that, that's your problem. However, if they did have the opportunity to contact you and didn't because you weren't important enough in their heart and mind, that's their problem. And that's a problem, because you deserve better than that. And so what your mind is telling you, what your higher self is saying, your soul is talking, is the idea that you can't justify the situation mentally, and so listen to the heart and see what it has to say before making a decision. And there's an important piece of beautiful art on this card that is not always apparent to those who don't have the eyes to see. And what that is that the shape of the 2 swords implies a cup. So consider the shape of this card, and I may actually just pop up a color version so that you can just see it. Yeah, let me just do that. Okay, so the swords imply a cup that's ready to be filled, and the thing that's going to fill that, and these are swords, remember, they're just in the shape of a cup. They're going to be filled by the moon. The moon is going to spill into that, filling divine, profane mind with divine heart. That's what it wants to do. Okay, so that's what your higher mind is telling you. Now we're going to move to the same idea here. This is what the higher mind is hearing. But this is from his perspective now. So this is not going to be your higher self. This is going to be his higher self. The 8 of Swords is an image of an individual who is bound, blindfolded, and kind of trapped in a bunch of swords. And the initial primary lesson of this is that the binding is self-imposed. You're not actually bound. Very typically, it's self-imposition when you deal with the sword because it's a mental activity. And so it's not actually something physically manifest. It's in your mind. Well, okay. And we can also look at what the source of that is. Like, why don't you trust? But we'll get there. And so what I mean by self-imposition is the fact that these swords each represent a different lie that she tells herself that is tightening those binds. Because look, she's not blocked by the swords. She could walk forward or backward and just fine. Doesn't realize that because she's blindfolded. Although, thankfully, that blindfold's pretty loose. In fact, if she were to shake her head hard enough, it'd fall right off. Same thing with those binds. All she has to do is just bring her hands in, and they're gonna just fall right down. Like she's not bound. She's not caged. She just thinks that she is. And so, however, what he's hearing, his higher self is hearing, is you feel trapped. Like he's feeling like you're feeling stopped from acting, stopped from moving. Or he feels like you're communicating that. That's the important thing. He feels like that's what you're saying. And also that is not your fault. Like, meaning that you're kind of coming off that if it weren't for others, this wouldn't be the case. I'm doing my part, right? And now let's take a look at the middle here, because this is the what your higher self is saying you should do. Because we talked about on the lower end here. That's funny. 7 of Swords, 7 of Cup. Good stuff. Illusory, success, illusion, fantasy. Right? You know, all these cups are have some fantastic image in it of a place that's it's too real. The idea of what this card is referring to, obviously, is not just the fantasies that's in the cup, but also the smoke. And then the fact is that there's a point where when the smoke clears, you see the truth. And, you know, sometimes you need assistance in letting that smoke clear, and sometimes it does on its own over time, or sometimes it does because an event takes place that clears it. And there's some other symbolism here as well. Right, like there's that figure in the middle that's glowing red with the the thing covering the head. It's kind of funny, like they were hiding in the smoke, and now that the smoke cleared, there's something covering the head. It's like, okay, well, I got to the bottom of the fact that there's something not going on right here. There's a little bit of a falsehood to this circumstance emotionally. Cups of emotion. And so I said, okay, well, let me try to clear the air. And so I clear the air, and then it turns out, no, there's still this sort of thing hidden emotionally that's not coming up to the forefront. And so what this do thing is to recognize that there's something hidden there, and you need to pay attention to what that might be. And which is funny, because also the 7 of Swords is this level of kind of like a dishonesty. Like there's a level of kind of an entrepreneurial attitude without regard for others. A selfishness. So the crux of this is that we need to do a little bit of flipping here. And the reason that we do this flipping is to kind of rework what we're looking at. And what we're going to wind up with is a result that's giving us a new reading, which is, if you did this, none of this would happen and you would be in a good spot. But it's going to give us some guidance here with respect to how to communicate where. And so what we do is we just take this card and flop it here, which is going to change the position of the who's speaking and who's hearing with respect to the higher and lower self of you and him. All right, and I hope that made sense. I hope that I spoke that correctly. If you recall the positional meanings here, this is the idea of your what's being heard by the higher self. This is what's being heard by his higher self, and so you're kind of swapping those two things, and these are going to get swapped as well. And this is the important card here. Actually, I want to leave the cups up, because this is false, and so it's now moved into the position of the fact of what you're saying, and so what you need to be saying is, I'm not bound. That's actually a lie, and you can kind of start letting go of that and dropping those swords. Right? And the last flip. Okay. And now consider the change that's taken place here. What we have here is the idea of what the higher self is saying to you and wishes that you would hear. Kind of flopped with what you were trying to say to begin with. But now, under the lens that you are not bound like you thought. And so, any motion that you take when you're not bound is correct. Okay? And that will allow you to be heard authentically. Okay, so that's the first working. The second working is the same thing, but for him. So I'm going to pause and ask how you feel about that. Do you have any questions? Do you need me to review anything individual? Is there any particular card you want me to elaborate upon? And in the meantime, I'm going to go make myself a cup of hot chocolate. It's getting chilly, and the tea's not doing it for me. I don't know. I'm feeling it's not doing it. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna use my Keurig to get the hot water in fast, so don't worry, I'll be back. But in the meantime, just kind of mull over what you're looking at. Let me zoom in. I'll leave this up. I'm not gonna go to my cam off screen, so I'll leave it up and consider if you have any particular questions or anything that I covered that was unclear. This is a spread that I developed over years. I didn't read it in a book. It doesn't exist outside of this. You just saw it for the first time. And most people saw it for the first time yesterday. So I go quick because I've been doing this particular spread for like quite a while, 15 years. No. All right, good. So then I'll be right back. I'm just going to, I'm putting a packet of hot chocolate in, turn it on the Keurig for hot water, and I'll be right back. So we have chocolate. Ladies and gentlemen, chocolate has happened. I love the crema on top of a hot chocolate when you first make it. You know, that little foamy, sweet little treat when the marshmallows start melting and it mixes with the bubbles. How do I know that we're not alone in the universe, and that there's something out there that loves us? Because chocolate. I'm going to leave the 8 of Sword up. And I'm going to leave the 6 of Sword up as a reminder of what we're talking about here as we do the spread for him, okay? I know it's not easy to see that 8 of Sword, but it's there, I promise, right? Where should I put my dove? This is interesting, just for giggles. This is our pentacle for the evening. You know, it's I grab all kinds of stuff for art projects and for things, little doodads here and there from yard sales and so forth. It's a broken Timex. It stopped at a specific time, which is 5:20, and the second hand is directly pointed at the 11. How neat is that? 52 is one of the names of the holy names of God. It's if you take the Yud Hey Vav Hey and you do the permutation, it equals 52. And that's interesting. So right, 5 and 2, 5:20, whatever. I'm stretching, and it's pointed at the 11. I love that. So I just figured I would leave it alone because I was thinking to myself, I'm going to set it to a specific time, you know. Maybe 11:11, maybe 4:44, 5:55. I don't know. I was going to think about it. And then I looked down and went, nope, I guess I'm leaving it alone. So this is our little pentacle for the night. Because, of course, time doesn't exist until things are physically manifest. And things aren't physically manifest until the pentacle stage. Right? Up until then, it's all just potentiality, hoping to be. Okay. Start with color. So I'm going to repeat the process, but for him. Let's jump to the right screen here, sorry. Oh, we got 2. Tell you what, when you're like having a rough time with your health, and you know, like there's like stuff going on, and that, you know, you're unsure, and like you're scared, and all this stuff going on, and then you have a moment to just stop and realize that you're in a group full of beautiful minds, all seeking truth, that have the power to look in things and see their beauty, that all gather to the same place for the same reason. And you're holding a cup of chocolate. the only thing you can do is enjoy that moment and sip that chocolate. So, my headache's gone, by the way. Like, gone. It does not exist. Which feels great. And I want to take a moment. I'm going to take a moment to enjoy the fact that my headache is gone. This is going to be what he wants to hear, or be heard. What he's saying and hoping that the world would hear. Which is opposite of the Nine of Pentacle. Nine of Pentacle. He wants you to hear, I'm fine. Which is funny, that's what came up before. On what he hears. He's just parroting back what he thinks. You know, the idea of the Nine of Pentacle is a very beautiful card. The Nine of Pentacle is the card of bliss. This woman is just in her glory. Let me pop the card up. And the reason that she's in her glory is because she got the work done. She did right by herself and her world. Where are my cards? I'm confused. Oh, let's go. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. I apologize. This one hit me hard. There we go. Man, I'm sorry. Okay. Just when you rely on your brain as your superpower and it starts to fail you, it's scary. All right, so let's see. What screen can I get these cards up on? I've completely lost my. This will work. Okay. Wait, where was I before? Where I was putting them up easily? Wow, I'm putting out some vulnerability right now, and I appreciate everybody being patient with me while I go through this this exercise of fumbling through. Oh, I was here. Okay, so Nine of Pentacle. I'm sorry. I don't even want to say the word, but I got ill, and it's been kicking my butt a little bit, and I'm having some serious like brain issues lately. Yeah, I feel, you know, yeah. I don't know. I've slept 6 hours in 3 days. Like, I mean, that's not hyperbole. Like, that's literally, like, if I did the math, it's probably around that. Maybe a bit less. Yeah, I have no excuse to be able to function right now. But look at her bliss. The Nine of Pentacle is this idea that there's a lot of work that just took place, and it was hard, and you stepped up, and you showed up, and because of that, you gained some notoriety for that, some popularity. People started to recognize that you were doing the work right, which opens up an opportunity to either succeed or fail, because when you get busy, the work can be affected, and if you allow the work to be affected too much, it's bad. And if you don't, and you work through and you allow yourself to experience that growth, the Eight of Pentacles is the growth card, you gain the reward of the Nine. And the reward of the Nine is rest. It's the card of the bliss that comes with knowing you did the work and you are free of imposition. You no longer have to work for it. No one's expecting anything from you. And so she gets that rest. And, you know, interesting too is this idea. The card is yellow all over the place. And yellow is the color of mind, of air, the sword. And although it's a card of Pentacle, she's in a state of divine mind. And in fact, if you notice, she's wearing, and clearly it's a falconer's glove, but she's wearing a falconer's glove, and it's yellow. And she is holding the bird, who has a red cap. So to be clear, the will of that bird is her higher will, and she is just like the strength card, petting the lion. The bird, remember the lion and the bird, The red lion and the white bird get together to do the alchemical marriage. The red lion and the white bird, and at the end of that process, and the work has been done, they turn into each other. They become one another through that act. And what happens? The bird becomes red, and the lion, or the bird becomes red, and the lion becomes white. That's the symbol of the alchemical marriage being successful, the work being done, is the red bird. I have one here. This is my fire wand. You see the bird head? And this is the work after the marriage. After the work has been done, it takes a piece of the other, just like the yin yang. The yin has a piece of the yang in it. The yang has a piece of the yin in it. This is a similar idea, but it's a complete transformation. You embody the other person, and they embody you, and so they change colors. So this is the idea that the alchemical work's been done. It's significant of a completion, that she's in such a bliss. She is literally one with that bird. And that bird has the ability to soar the heights, to achieve the supernal triad, to go above the abyss, to go to know oneself, to speak the self. So the Nine of Pentacles is what he is speaking to the world. He's telling everybody, I'm great, I got this, I did what I needed to do, and I'm okay. Or the opposite of that, which is, man, I messed up and I had a real big opportunity and I didn't take advantage of it, and now I'm suffering the loss of that opportunity rather than the bliss and rest of taking it. And we're going to clarify what that is after. What's actually being heard. This is such an interesting decision that this artist made, and I'm curious of people's opinions of this, because the card is so beautiful until we get this Facebook logo. And it's not a plug for Facebook, I want to be clear. In fact, it's insulting Facebook. The card is the Three of Swords, and we all know the Three of Swords. It's one of the most iconic images in the tarot, of the three swords sticking into the heart, which actually came from the Solabusca, which got it even further back from an original alchemical symbol of a head with three sticks in it. And it refers to the idea of holding three different minds at once: the divine mind, the profane mind, and the real one. And so the choice of the imagery is very interesting, that he has these like toxic signs, these icons that take over our thought, and our thoughts become memes. Don't forget that the three is a very powerful and holy number here, and that swords refer to mind. We had the Two of Swords show up for you, the Three of Swords showing up for him. And he has this sense of saying, well, first of all, the Three of Swords refers to the idea of the suffering that comes from identifying with these things. Identifying with our thoughts instead of our heart. And look what happened. Like she's literally, like her chest has been opened, and one of those swords is right in it. And she's been put up like as display. She has become one of these icons. So the idea is that we identify with our Facebook profiles and our friend count, or we identify with the polished side of who we all really are. Whereas this woman is being put in the position of having herself for the world shown, but it's not her actual self. It's sort of like the self that's being reflected through her mental pain. And this is him, right? And so he's trying to communicate the nine, that everything is okay. I'm in peace. I'm at peace. But what is being heard is, I feel like I'm... What's the correct word here? I was going to say inauthentic, but that's not exactly the energy. It's close, though. Give me a moment to find the term, because the word matters. As far as the deeper meaning. The idea here is that by pulling the swords out, in this case they're bobby pins, but by pulling out the swords, everything's kind of corrected. And another way to put that is that remember that the swords are mental, and that mental forms can be changed as quickly as your thoughts can be changed. And actually, when you come to the conclusion correctly, it's permanent and immediate. So what's being heard here is that it's out of my control. It's out of my hands. I'm the victim. But he's saying, no, everything's okay. So there's this dichotomy, and this is a major dichotomy. This is a big confusion. What he should be doing in order that his true self be heard properly by you. The Hanged Man. Yeah, but you already know that because you came in saying it. Because the fact is if he had called you on your birthday, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Right? Sacrifice. You want him to sacrifice. He needs to show that he is willing to. Now, let's even be clear about this. The Hanged Man is like a crazy powerful card with respect to the symbolism. It's this the second of the supernal triad. It's the water card of the three. You know, the Aleph Mem Shin. This is the Mem. This is the Fool, the Hanged Man, Judgment, and or Aeon. In the Crowley system. You're going to see that when we do Brianna. And so the story of the Hanged Man is Peter. Peter insisted, because Peter was crucified as well. Peter insisted that he be crucified upside down because he was not worthy to be crucified in the same manner as Christ. What the story alludes to is the fact that you want him to revere you. What he needs to do to be heard by you is to earn it. You could hear him anytime you want. You're choosing not to because you're elsewhere. You're distracted by his actions or lack of actions, and what he needs to do is to show this by, respecting you to the point that he's willing to suffer a little. To show that he's willing to work. Or not, right? And when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Okay, so I'm going to pause before I do the higher world for him and ask if you have any questions. Well, that ibuprofen worked fast. That was quick. In the meantime, I'm going to shuffle the deck and get it going. And if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat. And if not, then I'll just continue with the reading. Oh, I just noticed, Angel, that you said you usually drink coffee. Me too. Yeah, I had a very busy day and I wasn't able to get out in time for this specific place I go to get my coffee, and that's what I wanted, and it's not there, and so I wasn't going to settle. So I'm drinking tea because I ran out of coffee and I didn't have a chance to get out there today. But there would have been coffee on the desk tonight otherwise, for sure. Yeah, that's my sin. I tell you what, I have two sins. My first one is I have a severe addiction to caffeine. It's real. I have to admit it to myself. I have physical symptoms when I don't drink my coffee, and that's really bad, and I know it. But we're all allowed our little, whatevers. And I recently made the very, very poor mistake of starting up smoking again after some trauma that I experienced, and I just kind of fell back into it, and I'm in the process of working through that now, getting rid of that garbage. But yeah, those are my sins. Coffee, and coffee's not a sin. I just want to be clear. Coffee's not a sin. Abusing caffeine is a sin. Right? It's bad for your body. It's bad for your bones. It's bad for your soul. It's bad for your sleep. It's funny. I was reading an article somewhere, and it's there was an ad, like a banner ad or whatever, on the side to another article, and it said, "Not feeling good? That's because coffee's not a meal." I was like, yeah, that's me talking right back at me, right? That was me saying what I needed to hear. And coffee's not a meal. Says who? You spend enough time, you'll figure that out. We can turn coffee into a meal. I am the blacker the better. Actually, my favorite coffee is Sumatran, single source, and I'm a big fan of, as far as branded coffee, the only Starbucks I drink is Verona. I love it, love it, love it. Their Sumatran isn't bad, but no. And Green Mountain had just put out a new flavor called Black Granite, which is a super smooth but dark. It's bold. It's really good. But yeah, I want to taste it, and I drink it black with sugar, and it's delicious. And there's the bold and the bitter, and then you get the wash of the sweet, and it's just a beautiful. And dark coffee has lower caffeine than lighter coffee. So. No flavors. I can't stand flavored coffee. Isn't that weird? I don't know. There's so many options and opportunities in this myriad of experience, and I don't ever experience it. I don't know. I don't like them. They taste like paint or chemicals. Like I can't find the joy in the flavor. Let's try. Did not get too distracted. The clock is ticking, so I know I'll have to speed up and see what we can do to kind of move it along a little bit here. I don't know. I apologize. I have the tendency to get long-winded sometimes when the conversation moves in a direction like that, and so it's bear with me, especially when it's coffee. So, similar to before, what we're going to be talking about here is his higher self, his soul, his holy guardian angel. Fill in the blank on the adjective. And this is going to be what, from the respect of his higher self, what it wants, it wishes was heard, what it's trying to say, but may not be coming across. The Five of Pentacles is you've got an injured person and a miser kind of coming up to the church to kind of receive assistance. And so let me zoom in on that over here so that becomes a little more clear. All right, and now the idea here and the lesson in this card, it's not necessarily that a cripple or destitute, but it's more the fact that there's times where we find ourselves in need. And we have to be okay to receiving that. Some people are shameful when asking for help, and they just won't. They'll wither rather than seek it or accept it. And the other idea here is that sometimes things are so wrong that the only way to make it right is God. Like sometimes the only way to make it right is looking up. Another way that I've put it many times here on the channel and over the years is some injury is so great that healing isn't possible. And so rather than heal, you have to be open to transforming and becoming something else. And however, in order to do that, you need help. And so what this card refers to is the step of letting go of shame and addressing that injury spiritually. And being open to doing that. And so what his higher self is saying is, you need help. And you need to let go of the shame of receiving it. Okay? Seattle? Coffee? Yeah, that's like New York and baseball. That's like New York and pizza. I imagine I would have a blast in Seattle. Enjoying all of the, because I would have to have a cup of dark in every shop in town. That would be a lot. I would love that. Could I stay at your place? I'll bring my cards. We'll have a blast. We'll call some demons. We'll drink some blood. I don't know were you here for last night? I think you were, weren't you? I don't remember if you were here, but that was fun. And some people have a fear about this. Some people have a fear because they're concerned people are going to look at them in a certain way, and they're going to go, oh, well, he's, or well, she's, well, they're. When you're not right, it causes disease on every part of your body. It causes disease in your mind, your body, your soul. It's how you act upon the world, how the world looks upon you, how, the decisions that you make are affected. All of that matters when you're not acting right, when you're have given up agency to your ego and are not allowing the higher self to speak. And so this is the lesson for you, first of all, Angel. He needs your help. No, he needs help. And so you kind of have to, recognize that and go, okay, well. Yeah, I actually almost lost my patience. Like, that almost got heated. But then I realized what was going on. And it's like, no, let's just use this opportunity because it's a sounding board. Like, any good wisdom, I've mentioned it, the best way to train it is catechism. Question and answer. Crowley did it. He wrote a book. It's an entire book, which was basically him corresponding back and forth with neophytes in his order. Like, there's no more valuable than a discourse between a teacher and a student. And that's exactly what wound up taking place, is that person came in here and was saying a bunch of stuff, which just gave me an opportunity to answer it, and everyone else to chime in on that, and this beautiful thing happened, and it was just like, it was kind of great. So now this other card here is going to refer to your higher self, what your higher self is hearing. Neat. Because in his circumstance, this is what his higher self was hearing. There you go. Okay. So this is what you hear him saying. This is what he hears you saying. Or what your higher self hears him saying. And now what this says is... I just dropped cards all over the place. What this says is the idea of this person has a kind of a plan and a goal. Actually, that was working, so let's do that. This person has like a plan or a goal. And they're looking out into the world, and they have the world in their hands, and they're sitting there. But now, this is an interesting point. They're waiting for somebody. This person is waiting, okay? It's not like the three. The three of wands is similar. It's a person standing there where there's two wands, and it seems like they're waiting for two other people to show up. But those wands are ready to go and grab. This wand is actually put away. This other wand. The one behind him, if you look on the bottom, there's a ring that's holding that wand in place. It's going nowhere. It's not ready to go. It's put away. This person is going to be waiting for a while. There's a whole world for them to go see and experience and have. And they're standing there waiting, and they're not experiencing it, and they're not seeing it, they're not having it. And so just to be clear, this is his spread. And this is what your higher self is hearing with respect to his situation here, is the fact that you're going to be waiting for a while. Now, what does he need to do? This is what his higher self thinks he needs to do in order to communicate properly. The Four of Swords is, first of all, is honoring and recognizing your ancestors. Very typically with this, it can refer to a positive or a negative. On the positive end, it refers to the superpowers that we gain genetically from our parents or our grandparents or our families, right? Like the artistic ability or, vocabulary, math, science, whatever your thing is. Certain talents, right? Mine happens to be that I have the best sauce, in the local area here. Then I was given that beautiful gift from my grandmother. And each one of these swords is a gift that you're given. These swords that you can't see because it's not clear on the screen here. But it also refers to the idea of that ancestral knowledge being deposited. Those swords that are put up on the wall are positioned very specifically. One of them is going into the head, one of them is going into the heart, and one of them is going into the solar plexus. And these are three different areas. Basically, you have the idea of, the purple, right, and the green, and the orange. Okay, these are chakras, right? Green is the heart chakra. Purple is the third eye, and then you have the orange of the second chakra above root. And so there's a second idea here as well, which is that it also can refer to inherited mental illness. And that can, or inherited disease. So for instance, the one pointing at the head is mental illness. The one pointing at the heart is cruelty, abuse, neglect. And then you have the sword pointed at the solar plexus, or the area that it's in, which is digestion. But it's essentially the idea of the completed end of consumption. And the idea of what we take and what we get rid of occurs in that space there, right? And so that idea is, it's important that that's in order, because if it's not, you're going to wind up getting rid of things you need and keeping what you don't. And so then we have this final sword on the bottom, which is laid sideways. And the reason it's laid sideways is that it's implied that it's put down. It's not being utilized, and it's yellow. Not an accident. It's the color of the divine mind. It's the color of air, And so when you put all this together here, what you're having here is I see an image of this individual kind of needing some help mentally. And also that there is an unwillingness to do that for fear of shame. Which is not really helping your relationship or your friendship or your connection at all. Now, this is a reading by Michael, which means that there's going to be action cards, right? There's going to be, what do I do? And so we've looked at these kind of what do I do's. But now there's the what do I do with respect to the actual applying of the vortex. Like, let's flop the cards around and take a look at how do we correct, or more importantly, how do we communicate to him that it would be good for him to take these steps in order to correct these situation, this lack of a communication and the lack of understanding of the importance of him correcting it, and more importantly, that there is no shame. You deserve to be happy and joyful, and you have the power to be happy and joyful. Right. Oh, well, then you know patience really well, right? He's away a lot, and he doesn't get to tell you why. You know, I mean, there's a lot of unfortunateness that comes with that. You know, that might also have a little bit to do with this stuff coming up here with this level of kind of like a dishonesty, because, you know, a good portion of what he does, he can't speak to. Yeah, no, and I'm glad you do, but that also doesn't make it necessarily easy as a lover or a spouse of that person, right? But that's the military wife, that's the military lover, that's the you know, you both serve, don't you? So let's take a look, and that explains also too why you're left waiting. You know, that you're standing there alone. First things first. That's what was going on. Now this is what needs to happen. And so what we now here have is your higher self is going to hear. All you got to do is pull out those pins. Stop identifying with the icons. You're not the icon. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of complicated stuff that happens in a respect like that, and it's not always easy to navigate that process, you know, by any stretch. Now here though, the way this flips changes the lower self version of him, right? So what could be heard, what should be heard is, and this isn't necessarily a bad energy by any stretch of the imagination, is it's okay to see the world alone. It's okay. It's all right. Okay. Pardon me for that. That's an interesting flip now, isn't it? Because what we wound up just doing is we flipped the 9 of Pentacle into the spot of his what's being heard. Moved from his what he's saying into being heard. So that makes sense, because now he's able to communicate properly whether or not he's in pain or not. Because right now he's busy telling everybody, no, everything's okay. Right, that's come up a couple times. And now we know why, because there's something deep inside of him that he's not willing to admit. There's a fear of shame. Yeah. So, final flip. He will find peace if he can get over the shame and seek help. And there may be something more to the headaches. All right, I'm going to stop there. Otherwise, we are complete. And so, do you want to reiterate? Is there anything you wanted me to, look into a little further? You tell me. Incidentally, are there? Amreen, thank you for popping in. Are there any tarot readers in the room? If you're a tarot reader, just put a thumb up real quick, or a wave or something like that. Well, that works. That's the way you start. That's how we start, right? That's how we all start, kidding. If only you knew somebody that could teach you how to read tarot. I don't know. Well, if you bump into them, let me know. But really, though, no, everything's fine. Thank God that I can help them out. At least back off. Well, that's the thing. It depends upon you. Here, that's not even your job. Your job is to convince him of that. Meaning that you getting them to back off to give him a better time about it is important. But what's more important is convincing him that there'll be no shame, so that he'll take the step. You know? And there could be more involved that you're not even aware of or considering with respect to family stuff, genetic stuff, PTSD, and other mental states that arise from being in a position to do things we're not supposed to do naturally, and that soldiers are asked to do, and they do with honor. But that doesn't mean they're not human beings. And so we have to take care of them, because they're being asked to do things that we can't, because it would hurt, it would damage us. And we just ask them to go do that. And then they're put in this position of feeling shameful about seeking help. We're getting better. We're getting better about recognizing mental illness, and more importantly, the things that we ask these people to do and what it does for them and to them. And that they need, forget that they need support, they need permission. Right, and so now one thing that can maybe help this situation a little bit is having a conversation about how you and him should have a conversation. You and I need to talk about how you and him can talk. Sure. And that's why, it's more important than ever that the moments that you do steal, you can do something about, right? That you can make them the best and the most and that they can be, and that you take the fullest advantage of that when you're together. But yeah, so I want to do this. Angel, email me. Well, you Cashapp to me, so I don't have any information. I don't have your email address. I don't have a phone number. I have no way of getting hold of you. So email me your phone number or text me. Right, this number is my text. Okay. So text me there, and I'll touch base with you tomorrow. I'll reach out and we'll schedule a time that we can sit down and continue this conversation. with respect of the goal of kind of taking you through a language class on this person and how to speak to him. And hopefully what we can do for his sake and his spirit is to help him to find some peace and to help him to find the not the courage it takes to do what he's already doing, but the real courage, the hard kind, which is to be vulnerable. Right? Oh, please stop. I appreciate that. I'm really. And thank you for saying that. But yeah, reach out. Like, I mean it. Please email me, and we'll continue this. And you know, with you were very generous in your amount, and I appreciate that. And so I don't worry about any whatever fees or anything. We'll just continue the reading, and we'll look at how can we help you to learn how to communicate your heart. Because the source of that heart is divine mind, and which is your true will, your true self. And when you can learn that language and you hear it or don't, you know who's talking. Me too. And for anyone in the room that's a reader, the reason I asked is that your opinion of that spread, because it's one that I've used for a long time, and typically the only people who see it are people who I use it on. I don't really share it with readers. I did recently, and I finally put it out like to the world here on the channel recently, with respect to the specifics and the flipping and how that all works. It's like a mini version of the rise of the proletary, or the March of the Courts. This is the complete version of this spread, but it's like a 4-session, 6-hour magical working. It's not a spread. It's not a spread. It's a magical working. But that said, though, this is the large version of that. It gets to a similar answer, just much more granular, because it gets to every little bit of every trial that you're going to go through. It's really intense. It's a DNA test, and it's like complete results. It's crazy. Oh, great! Yeah, awesome. Great. And we'll work out the best way of approaching the situation. Like, what are we actually trying to do here? Are we going to try to like mojo him, or are we going to try to work with you to do the mojoing? Right. So we'll figure it out. But that's really the goal here, because the goal is to consider the connection, but it's also the idea of, if we can, to help heal some people, and if we can heal them, transform them. Because that's what healing is anyway. Nobody heals anything. You cut yourself and it comes back together. You think that that's the old skin? Of course not. It just transformed and looks like it didn't change, but it did. I'm glad. Yeah. Well, I try to do that. I mean, that's the goal, I guess. I try to do that. If you come seeking and I provide you with a bunch of big words that you don't understand, then nothing happened. And so I use big words, but then I try to whittle it down. And that's on purpose, because I want to say it 3 ways. And so one of those is going to ring with you, right? The point is that I don't know your language yet. I will learn it. But until I do, I'm having to rely on strictly my intuition and your feedback. And so the best way to go about that is to say the same thing 3 ways. There's many ways to skin a cat. You can tell a story 5 different ways. Right? And everyone hears it differently. Some people hear it, feel it. Right? You hear what I'm saying? You feel me? You know what I mean? And so by saying it 3 ways, you're going to ring into somebody. And so that's really what I try to do here. And can you get my birth chart? I can pay for it. I can, yes, absolutely. I do birth charts, and there's a couple of different ways that we approach birth charts, and so we can, we'll discuss that in the email. Okay, or rather on the phone tomorrow. But send me your contact, whatever preferred method you have, and we'll either call or email. Yeah. Astrology is it's a talent of mine. That spread is so unique. Yeah, well, I'm writing it. It's happening. I'm writing the book now. Like it's there's a few things that for some reason I had this weird compulsion to keep secret all these years. Like I don't know why. And it's time. I've just been sharing everything. I'm getting rid of everything. I'm giving away my decks. I'm teaching everyone my spreads. It's a matter of saying, okay, well, how can we contribute to this conversation? Thank you, Angel. Yeah. I just met a girl named Maria. No. So, that said, thank you. That was a great reading, and I felt good. I enjoyed that. Oh, okay. Well, that's important. The fact that you know that is actually going to be helpful. That gives me a little insight about how it's going to go. Okay, Bree, are you here? Yeah, if you're still here, let me know. Shoulder was okay. I need to step away for a moment. I'll be right back. A gallon of tea and a hot chocolate has finally gone through the transfiguration and needs to descend before it can ascend. So bad. I'll be right back. Bree, if you're here, let me know. And if not, we'll be speaking in a couple of hours. Okay? I'll be right back. Alrighty. So, oh wow, thank you. Wow. I really appreciate it. That means a lot. That just means that the connection took place, and that matters, and so I'm glad. I mean that. Okay, so wow, that was an interesting stream. That's great. I've been doing a lot of readings the past couple of days, more than lately, because I've been focusing a lot on lecture. But this felt great. Kind of getting the practical end in. I'm not going to spend any time on doing I Ching tonight, since it's 5 a.m. and I've been on for close to 4 hours. I'm going to kind of take my own advice and do right by my body and try to get a little extra sleep tonight to try to catch up to some level of normal as I work through this illness. Otherwise, there's a statement that I made at the beginning of this stream that I want to end the stream with. Enlightenment is not a destination, it's an unfolding. We're in a constant state of becoming something. Be careful what you become. And so, thank you to everybody who joined the stream tonight and everybody who continues to come back and listen to me talk. It means a lot. And thank you especially to the people who blow up my chat with wisdom. I love you for doing that, and that engagement means everything, because the goal, what we're trying to do here is to talk each other into the truth. That's it. That's literally why I'm here. And if that means that I have to do a tarot reading to be given the permission to tell you that truth, then that's what I'll do. Or if it's that I have to say some stuff that you don't like so that you go to the chat and somebody in the chat gives you the truth, then even better. However we get there, that's the goal. And together we get there faster. Okay, and so thank you for participating in that. And if anyone needs anything, you can reach out to me in any of these ways. I'm happy to. I answer my emails, I answer my text messages, I answer my WhatsApp. You know, we can take this walk together, and we can help to nothing short of change the world, one person at a time. Right? And so why not start with you? Thank you so much to everybody who joined, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Everything you just saw actually happened.